Well, Africa, welcome to the newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin.
Let us build our continent brick by brick, stone by stone, until we achieve.
Cross had asked the court to review and cancel the contract after adverse findings by both the Auditor General as well as the Public Protector.
Well, Christianity is under attack globally. It has been from the beginning of time.
Get all the dominating stories locally and globally on Newsroom every Monday to Friday from 9 a.m.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's another beautiful day on the Highveld. We've got a full schedule today with a lot happening, Elvis. But our focus, firstly, is on gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence in South Africa. You know, a lot of complaints, especially here in Women's Month, where we've seen a lot of complaints and, of course, a lot of incidences with women being beaten up, even yesterday by a woman.
Absolutely.
First lady beating up a young lady here in South Africa.
The thing is, though, deadly Women's Month it's been for some women.
Wow, you know, it has been. When we started August, we had no idea that it would turn out to be one of the highest rates and incidents of reports of women being abused, being killed, being maimed.
Celebrities being involved as well, as we've seen.
So that's what we're talking about today, and that is that 1 in 5 South African women older than 15 experiences physical violence right now in their relationships. 1 out of 5, and that is a conservative estimate. So we're asking you, we're running all these campaigns of us. We certainly see a lot of money being spent by government on campaigns and the like, but the numbers go up, Kendall.
Exactly, and that's why we want to find out from you, in terms of the fight against women abuse, are we being serious about it in this country?
Let's take a look at what the polls suggest and what the numbers say. Well, so far, 207 votes in. 74% of you are saying we are serious about tackling gender-based violence in South Africa. No, says no, we're not serious. 26% are saying yes, we are serious. So that's a huge number.
207 votes in already. That's a lot of people getting traction on this.
And people are saying a patriarchal society, things aren't changing. Our women keep on being abused, and the numbers of them dying is too high.
Exactly, and we want to find out what you're saying. Dipansu says it's all talk. Our society is so comfortable with it, and leaders themselves are involved in women's abuse.
Yeah, we've seen high-profile cases of us.
Shub says, I agree. The wheels of justice turn slowly. Set up special courts to deal with priority crimes.
Yeah, we see the escalation of this kind of thing here in South Africa. But of course, the big story that everybody wants to know about and want to talk about is, where is Grace Mugabe?
Well, she pulled a Houdini on us.
Yeah.
She's gone. Where is she?
Well, I'll tell you what, I just saw a tweet by ZANU-PF, the official ZANU-PF Twitter account, saying she's back home 16 hours ago.
I thought you were going to talk about that report we saw coming out of Zimbabwe about rescuing her sons from women abusers in Santa Natal. Is that what we saw?
We did see something like that. We're still verifying exactly whether it's official ZANU-PF account or not.
It's unofficial report, so we can't say anything about this. We're looking at this report. Kendall has been sort of interacting with that information, Elvis. But there are lots of tweets coming in, Elvis.
Nazim Grootboom says our authorities are chameleons when it comes to high-profile people. Look at Mduduzi Manana's case and Grace Mugabe's assault. There you have it. So says Nazim.
Yeah, Mahafa says she cooperated with police so she can go back home, because if you cooperate with the police, there's no need for arrest, according to the police minister.
Yeah, but did she? Because she pulled a no-show at the court, the special hearing that was set for her yesterday afternoon. It was a no-show. So, well, it's conjecture as to what happened. Hopefully, the police minister will clear it all up on Twitter for us at some point today. Anyhow, the Springboks have a new jersey, guys, and some people are just up in arms about this red jersey, Kendall, that they're talking about.
Yeah, this red jersey has been brought in for the Springboks to celebrate 25 years of unity, and it's going to be their away jersey. So when they play in South in Argentina in 2 weeks' time, the Springboks will be wearing that red jersey.
It's a once-off, Elvis, and it's inspired by the national flag. How do you view this?
Well, there you see it. You see the jerseys, and of course the colors are coming through. And I think it's a little bit of a difference, so people can get used to different colors of the flag, it would seem. Tandiwe says, a red jersey for our Springbok is not representing our boys. Maybe we can use it for training. Our green talks to our mission.
What do you say about the white jersey then?
Yeah, but change is good, guys. I think it's a beautiful jersey. I think it's going to sell a lot, and it's still a Springbok jersey. It's different. Have a good attitude, like Nazim.
Yeah, he says, I really don't care about the jersey, as long as they're going to play good rugby and win.
That's what South Africa's about. Kendall called it yesterday. South Africans, we love a winner more than anything else, whether the jersey's orange, pink or blue.
Well, you know that what the minister said before, the previous sports minister for Kile, we're not a bunch of losers.
Bunch of winners.
Yeah, no, let's rather park that one up. It's tough for us to get up to speed with what's happening in the news.
Today marks the 5th anniversary of the Marikana killings, during which 34 mine workers were shot and killed by police. 5 more ANC members of Parliament are in hot water for boycotting a meeting of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration yesterday. And on the continent, at least 600 people are reported to be missing. This on top of the nearly 400 that has been killed in the Sierra Leone mudslide. Now, those are all your headlines. Before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendo Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Gentlemen, good morning to you. Thank you very much. Lots of talk, lots of hullabaloo around that red jersey, but you know what? There's a match to be played, and that's going to be our focus for today in our headlines. Good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today.
Very proud in what they do, and I believe, you know, that brings that extra motivation and that extra fire in the belly.
After being matched pound for pound by Argentina in their last few outings, the Springboks will not be taking anything for granted when they play the South Americans in the Rugby Championship opener this weekend. And Bafana struggled to get a team together for the second leg Chan qualifier against Zambia as PSL clubs recall players for the start of the league.
We have to respect this because this is not a FIFA date, and good cooperation between coaches and clubs, I think, is very important.
The US Open gives disgraced former world #1 Maria Sharapova a wild card entry into the final Grand Slam of the year. And of course, Serena Williams has announced a very ambitious plan to be back at work, back playing in the Australian Open in January. But more about all of that a little later. For now, do stay with Elvis as he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The 5th commemoration of the Marikana massacre will take place today. On this day, in August 2012, 34 miners were shot dead by the police who had been deployed to break up a strike that had turned violent at the Lonmin-owned Marikana platinum mine in the northwest. An official inquiry established by the President, Jacob Zuma, put much of the blame for the deaths of the police tactics, but no prosecutions have been brought.
The Marikana forced by South African security forces on civilians since the 1960 Sharpeville massacre. The shootings took place at 2 locations, roughly 500 meters away from each other. When the dust settled, 34 people were dead at 2 different locations. The official figure for those injured during the shootings is 78. The African National Congress says it's important to record that history in its entirety.
The Marikana case is ongoing. What we have done from beginning, and we continue to do that, is that you never use a disaster to score political points.
Economic Freedom Fighters leader Julius Malema laid criminal charges against Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2015. Malema also laid charges against others, including former Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa, Police Commissioner Ria Pierra, and former Northwest Police Commissioner Zukiswa Mbombo. Charges were also laid against Lonmin for the role the mining company played in the shooting of the miners in August 2012. In 2016, President Jacob Zuma released the report of the Marikana Commission of Inquiry. Dumalo Mhlaudi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, the AMCU President Joseph Mathunjwa says that only those with a clear conscience from the killing of the 34 mine workers will be allowed to attend this year's 5th Marikana commemoration. Now, this is as thousands of mine workers, religious leaders and political parties are expected to gather at the infamous Koppie near Wonderkop, a site where the workers were killed by police on this day. Now, to find out what is happening on the ground, we're now joined by our reporter, Oleboheng Kotsilentswe. A very good morning to you, Lebo, and can you tell us what is happening there?
Good morning and a warm welcome to Wonderkop right here in Marikana, Elvis. As you mentioned, we are commemorating the 5th anniversary of the incidents that took place right here on the 16th of August in 2012. Today, AMCU is hosting a remembrance event in honor of the 34 mine workers that were shot here by police, as well as the 78 others that were injured. But also, it is in remembrance of the 10 people, including 2 police officers and 2 security personnel that were hacked to death and some burnt alive in the days leading to the 16th of August in 2012. As you probably can hear, there's a lot of noise around here, Elvis. It's a bit of a bittersweet moment as far as the mood is concerned, because on one hand, you've got scores of mine workers coming in, making their way to the Koppie where the incident took place, and they are holding with them knobkiris and sticks, waving them in the air, singing struggle liberation songs, Elvis. And you can really hear that they are singing from a very painful place. Speaking to some of them, they say that this day will never leave them. They say as soon as the 16th of August approaches, they go back to reliving the trauma, because some of them have lived to tell the tale, Elvis. Some of them are paralyzed for life. Some of them continue to live with various injuries from that day. They say that when the clock hits about 4 o'clock or just after 4 p.m. in the afternoon, they start feeling and they start reliving the moments that happened when the police fired at their co-workers, Elvis. On the other hand, you hear music, celebratory music, preparing for the event that is to take place here at 11 o'clock later this morning. So it's a bit of a bittersweet moment to be here right now, but also to highlight that such as any event of this magnitude, it has also turned into a business opportunity for some small business owners in the area of Marikana. There are scores of stalls around here. People are selling food, fruit, airtime, water, beverages, anything that they think that can be sold here, and any way to make some sort of profit, really to prove that the struggle does continue, that they keep living from hand to mouth. And some of them expressing their views right here with us this morning and in the days leading to this day, Elvis, is that they are very dissatisfied and angry, might I add, with the fact that nobody has been apprehended or nobody has been held accountable for the shootings and the killings of their co-workers here that took place 5 years ago, Elvis. So today, AMCU is commemorating the deaths of those people. We're expecting to see quite a number of, important or dignified people in the story of Marikana. We spoke to Lonmin CEO Ben Magara earlier on Morning Live. We're also expecting to see the various political parties. The leadership of the EFF is already here in the province. The leadership of the DA, I understand, will also be here. We're expecting to see Mr. Joseph Mathunjwa leading the events of today. We're expecting to see still more of the mine workers coming and converging at the Koppie, and some rituals to be performed right here, Elvis. So it'll quite be, it promises to be an eventful day, and we will be here monitoring and keeping score with what is up to date.
Moleboheng, thank you so much for that report. That was our reporter on the scene there at the copy in Marikana. Moleboheng Kotzilense. Now, a long-awaited ANC court case in KwaZulu-Natal will be heard by a full bench in the Pietermaritzburg High Court from today. 5 ANC members representing different branches are taking the party to court over the results of the 2015 Provincial Elective Conference. They want the results nullified.
The battle lines have been drawn as the ANC branches take on the party. After several delays, the much-anticipated court case will be heard. The applicants, 5 branch members, want the results of the ANC's 2015 elective conference declared null and void, alleging they were rigged and fraudulently predetermined.
This case is all about compliance to the rules and regulations in terms of how you conduct ANC constitutional processes. This predates to the branch general meetings which were held without following the guidelines that were issued by the NEC of the ANC.
The 39 respondents in the case include members of the ANC's Provincial Executive Committee, as well as the Electoral Institute of Southern Africa, which oversaw the election. The ANC says while it's ready to defend itself, it still believes the matter could have been handled differently.
The PEC have responded to the case, is ready for the case, and it is unfortunate that ANC issues are discussed in court. There is no political issue that could be resolved by a court. Political issues are discussed politically.
Hundreds of supporters for opposing sides are expected to gather outside the court.
We are indeed appealing to everyone who will be going to the Pietermaritzburg High Court to behave themselves and conduct themselves in a manner that actually reflects the character of the African National Congress, especially the matter of tolerance of each other. We are not enemies. It's just that we disagree on certain issues.
The matter has been set down for 3 days. I am Mhlongo, SABC News, Durban.
Now, for the latest on the story, we cross now live to Pietermaritzburg High Court, where our SABC reporters Blaine Herman and Ayanda Mhlongo standing by. Very good morning to you, Blaine. Can you give us an update as to what is happening there? ANC versus ANC in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yeah, very good morning to you, Elvis. It is indeed a crucial court battle, isn't it? It's basically a push for the scrapping of the ANC's 8th Provincial Elective Conference, which happened in November in 2015. Now, the bid to nullify the conference actually came about on the eve of the local government elections last year, in fact. And, it was some ANC members are asking the court to declare the results of that conference null and void, basically unlawful. And, there are about 5 applicants, and they are saying that basically they're citing the procedural flaws as well as irregularities. Now, 5 applicants and also 39 respondents. As you heard from Ayanda's piece there, among the respondents are ANC chairperson Sihle Zigalala, his deputy Willis Mqunu, as well as the ANC itself, other ANC figures here, as well as the Electoral Institute of Southern Africa. Now, that conference back in 2015 was indeed hotly contested. It basically saw Sihle Zigalala beat the former Premier, Senzo Mqunu, to become the provincial chairperson. Zigalala received 780 votes, while Mqunu received 675. A few months later, Mqunu resigned as Premier, and he was replaced by Willis Mqunu, who's the current deputy chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. So that's basically how the sequence of events started. But let me bring in my colleague Ayanda Mhlongo, who has been following this case quite closely over the last year. So Ayanda, thank you very much indeed for your time. Just give us the tick-tock of how it happened over the years. How did it unfold over the last year?
Well, Blaine, as you've put it, the bone of contention has been that provincial elective conference that was held, and in fact you and I did cover that conference, which, as you said, saw the former chairperson Senzo Mchunu being ousted, and the then chairperson Sihle Zegalala then elected as the chairperson in the province of KwaZulu-Natal for the ANC. But it goes back, what the branches are saying, or these branch members that have brought this case to court, are not only contesting the results of the actual conference and wanting those results to be nullified, but they're also saying that they need to look back at the processes leading up to that elective conference. You'll remember that there were many protests in the build-up in areas like in Janga, which we reported widely on, areas in Folon and other parts of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, where we saw branches of the ANC taking it to the streets. And they were saying that it was a last resort after they had exhausted channels within the ANC, within the structures of reporting about the BGMs. Of course, before a conference is to be held, there needs to be the branch, what they call the branch general meetings in the build-up to the provincial conference. And they were saying that many of those BGMs were flawed. They raised issues of the manipulation of the voters' roll. They said delegates who should have been part of those BGMs were not allowed to have attended, raising concerns of ghost members, in fact, being the ones that attended those meetings, and saying, in sense that ANC procedures in line with the party's constitution were not followed. And as a result, they claim that many then of the delegates who then attended the provincial conference should not have been there. You remember, Blaine, during that conference that at one point they even had to do a physical head count after there were concerns that were raised that there was a possibility that a number of the people who were at, the delegates who were at that conference should have in fact had not been there. And they said that there were fake memberships that had been issued to some of the delegates. So those are the concerns that these branches have, saying that it needs to go back and look at the processes leading up to that conference. Thereafter, of course, the elective conference, they did again, we've had a number of times we've met the branches, we've met some of the applicants, and saying that even after the elective conference, they again tried to meet with the leadership of the ANC. They tried to send their complaints to as far up as the SG, Guadamantash of the party, and they're saying that still those complaints and concerns that had been raised were not dealt with, and thus they then had no option but then to take the party to court.
A full bench of judges will be tackling these allegations. What's the mood among the supporters? Are we expecting both sides, supporters, to come out in full support of either side, I guess, of the argument? We can hear a few voices coming in, so supporters are trickling in. But from at the build-up to this conference, what was the mood among the various sides?
Well, so since it was made known that these branches were now going to take the party to court, it has split the ANC, that is no doubt, where you've had members of branches and supporters who are supporting the current PEC, and those that are supporting what they now say is the faction, or those who are supporting the former chairperson of the ANC, Senzo Mchunu. The ANC has managed to speak to the members in terms of we've not seen any clashes. Obviously, today's court case, we have been here to the Springbok High Court before, where supporters did come out in their numbers, but both sides urging for tolerance, both sides urging that their supporters respect the ANC, in essence saying that they are still both members, supporters of the ANC, they are still members in good standing, they're still loyal to the ANC, and they just differ on this particular matter. But there hasn't been any clashes, which has been good. The ANC has been able to manage on both sides. The leaders of both these sides have been able to manage their supporters. And again, today, both sides have spoken to their members who are expected to come out here in their numbers. Of course, assisting will be the police. They are also here ensuring that there is a heavy police presence and that they do keep the two sides apart. But they have made an appeal, both sides and the leaders of the ANC, to say that members need to keep calm and allow the court process to take its course.
Mr. Mshengu from the spokesperson for the applicants was saying in your piece actually that they are not enemies, rather that they just differ on certain issues, and I guess calling for tolerance and calm. For now, we could hear the boisterous crowd there, so for now everything remains calm. As you mentioned, heavy police presence inside and outside of court. This matter is set down for 3 days. Take us through the process over the next 3 days.
Yes, as you said, that it will be a full bench. It's 3 judges that will be presiding over this matter. It is set down for 3 days. There was a number of delays, of course, getting to today, where the judges have said that there is going to be, the matter is going to be heard over the next 3 days. There was a number of postponements before with conjunctory applications where the ANC had requested additional information from the applicants. We understand that all those documents that had been requested have finally been submitted. So I guess today you're speaking about our discussion with Thembiso Mshengu yesterday, who was speaking on behalf of the applicants. He did say that he does not foresee that there could be any delay, and he said that it from both sides, as well as the chairperson of the ANC, Sihle Zikalala. We also chatted with him a day or two ago, and he did say that this case is also hindering unity, that they want to see unity in amongst ANC members. In fact, that they want to get over this case. They want this case to come and go. They want the courts then to make that decision. He also said, Blaine, that for him it's unfortunate that it's come to this point that they are in court, but both sides are eager to see this matter through. And then, of course, we'll wait to see whether or not any of them will want to, depending on the outcome, will then want to take this case further.
I know the buzzword indeed for the ANC is unity, and both sides want this closure, I guess, in this matter. And I'm going to let you go. You're going to run into court now. Court proceedings are scheduled to start at around 10 o'clock or so. So it's, as we said, heavy police presence. So the entry into court will be monitored closely. So that's how it stands now. Court starts at about 10 o'clock. We'll be keeping you up to date with all the latest. We'll look forward to Ayana's reporting a little later on. But for now, it's back to studio.
Thank you so much to our reporters, Blaine Herman and, of course, Ayanda Mshlongo. They'll give us an update a little bit later, so you have to stay tuned to find out what's happening in court there. Meanwhile, 5 ANC members of Parliament who boycotted a meeting of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration yesterday will face a disciplinary hearing. The 5 have told the ANC Chief Whip, Jackson Mthembu, that they object to working under ANC MP Makosi Khoza, who has openly called on President Jacob Zuma to resign. The spokesperson for the ANC Chief Whip, Nongeba Mwawuli, says that their actions amount to gross ill discipline. Zimbabwean First Lady Grace Mugabe appears to have left South Africa after failing to hand herself over to the police for allegedly assaulting a woman in Sandton, north of Johannesburg, over the weekend. The Zimbabwean government sources, the Democratic Alliance, and some South African media have all stated that she returned home late yesterday. Mugabe allegedly assaulted a 20-year-old model, Gabriella Engels, with an extension cord here in Sandton, Johannesburg. Engels filed an assault charge, and police said there were negotiations for Mugabe to hand herself over. Meanwhile, political analyst Professor Samadoda Fekeni says it could be that we had a similar situation to that of Omar al-Bashir, where the law enforcement was thwarted behind the scenes.
It might as well be that you have a situation as al-Bashir, where behind the scenes discussions over what could have been diplomatic embarrassment was happening, and the law enforcement therefore was thwarted in that sense. And I wonder if there was clear communication between those who might have been facilitating the exit of the Zimbabwean First Lady and the Minister of Police, because these days it might as well be that his communication might not have been informed by those particular processes.
All right, but what do we expect to do? Because there are reports also coming out this morning saying that from the sources in the Zimbabwean government saying that she actually went back home last night. And we know that her husband is expected to come to South Africa today for the heads of states meeting taking place in Pretoria. Are we likely to see anything happening today?
I doubt, except the statements, the First Lady of Zimbabwe might just avoid South Africa for the meantime, because of this legal awkwardness. At the same time, it will raise questions about the immunity and the diplomatic immunity. What are its boundaries and how is it applied? And also all these things do often around the multinational conferences like the SADC one that is coming, as it was the case with the AU, how we have not learned on how to handle these things in a seamless manner while still maintaining the national interest of the country. It's a question that has to be raised at this point.
And that's why we raise this question. What happened to Grace Mugabe? After that assault case being opened, there you see the picture of the young girl being assaulted by allegedly, I must add, by the First Lady of Zimbabwe, Grace Mugabe. So let's take a look at what you are telling us. Billion Malawutsi says she is gone already. We left with our mouths open. It's SA laws. Michael Marobani says, I think she must report to any SAPS because no one is above the law. And Gifted says, she pulled an al-Bashir on us.
Yeah, that's
well, there you have it here, but
it's a very interesting one. Of course, it's the most talked about story, Alvis, here in South Africa. The last 3 days, actually, and of course, everyone has an opinion on it. But some interesting views there, of course, talking about being above the law, and that's like one of the sentiments that's being raised on social media is that more and more people seem to be above the law in South Africa. And what does that say about where we are heading? And our law enforcement agencies, for that matter. And of course, you know, getting out of the country with so many bodyguards, nobody seemed to know where a motorcade and the like. Anyhow, but talking about being above the law, of course, that Women's Month, and that was brought straight into focus with the non-arrest of Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Ndudu Zimanana. And today, of course, our discussion point is around gender violence, and that's exactly why we're running the poll today. And we ask you, are we serious as a nation about tackling gender-based violence in South Africa? Now, you guys are voting. 241 votes in. 3/4, Elvis, are saying, no, we are not serious about this thing.
That's the numbers. They suggest that only 26% are saying yes.
Yeah, people have this, one get this sense that some people are above the law with regards to this thing. We've seen lots of celebrities in the crosshairs the last couple of weeks.
Maponyane is one of them.
Yep, we've of course, the minister is the highest profile of the lot. But let's take a look at some of the tweets, guys, what you guys are telling us with regards to this. Nomvelo tweets us, Nomvelo Mtembu Dias says to us, no, as long as we still have perpetrators walking freely like nothing happens. Talking about whether we are serious about gender violence and dealing with it. The campaigns surely are not working if we look at the numbers.
Tumi says, as long as our justice system is not fair, then we can't even debate this issue.
This one from Takakakanya Masiza says to us, Newsroom, if those who voted no can start being serious now that they admitted they're not serious, then we all are. Talking directly to the poll. How can you vote no, he says, if you look at the numbers of gender violence? And of course, the number that stands out today, Elvis, is 1 in 5 women in a relationship over 18 years is being physically abused by their partner in South Africa right now.
Shocking statistic. Shocking statistic, that's all I can say.
Absolutely shocking statistic. If you think about 28 million women guesstimating in South Africa. 1 in 5 makes it more than 6 million. Almost 7 million women are being abused in their relationships in South Africa right now. That's not even talking about independent abuse. Anyhow, let's go to Twitter quickly, because after the break I'll speak to the gender violence experts. Also later we'll hear from Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, her take on gender violence in South Africa and how we should come to terms with this. But today, of course, is Marikana. Now, you saw the live crossing there earlier on social media as we commemorate the shooting and killing of police and 34 miners this day 5 years ago. The talks this year around the compensation of the families, as well as who is to be held accountable for these killings. Some say not much has happened since now. Moving on, areas around Shoshanguve, north of Pretoria, are blocked this morning due to a go-slow taxi strike. Train commuters have also allegedly been turned away from the station by some taxi drivers. So if you're in the area, try and find alternative routes and modes of transport. That's a taxi strike in the capital. Then, Zimbabwe's First Lady, Grace Mugabe, that's all the talk on social media. Now, she's believed to have returned home after she was expected in court following an assault at a Santon hotel, where she allegedly assaulted a 20-year-old woman with a piece of cord. However, there's apparently an official statement from ZANU-PF, which has a different view on what happened here in South Africa. The statement says the following: that Grace Mugabe was attacked by a white girl when she was trying to rescue her two sons who were drugged and being abused in an unnamed hotel. It goes on to talk a lot there. You can go onto our social media page and get the ZANU-PF statement on our Facebook page if you want to have a look at it. But yeah, it talks about foreign interests trying to step up their campaign by marrying into the Mugabe family and destroying the leadership from within. These are the official ZANU-PF words that come out. So go and have a look on our website. It makes for an interesting read. Anyhow, a very serious story in West Africa, of course, is Sierra Leone. Now, around 400 bodies have been recovered following the devastating mudslide and the flooding in the country. The number is expected to rise exponentially. Mass burials are being held today for the victims. Now, the hashtag Sierra Leone, if you look at the pictures there, it shows a heart-wrenching story that is emerging. Now, we understand that more than 600 people are still missing, and the death toll, well, could rise to well above 1,000 in an absolute tragedy in the capital of Freetown, just north of Freetown, some are saying, there in Sierra Leone. That story is one that will develop throughout the rest of the week. We'll give you updates, not just on this show, but on all of our others as we carry on. Now, let's take a look at our picture of the day. And this one, of course, today, there can be no other picture. It takes us back 5 years. This one from Donald Marimbe. He says its captions: Nene Noki was shot dead trying to broker a peace deal. Lest we forget, 5 years, but no justice for Marikana. That is the caption that goes with tweeting that pic of the day. Now, our very own Peter Ndoro today is our tweet of the day, and he talks directly to Grace Mugabe. Of course, Peter has his roots in Zimbabwe, and those who know Peter knows that he's quite outspoken about what happens in Zimbabwe. This is his tweet, and we've made it our tweet of the day. He says, hashtag Grace Mugabe, accused of assaulting a young woman. Mothers should be nurturing our children, not adding to the violence. And he adds the This Flag movement and the hashtag Safe Zimbabwe there at the bottom of his tweet. That's our tweet of the day. Peter Ndoro. Now, let's take a look at what's happening in our courts here in South Africa. We start in the capital where, of course, the Ahmed Temel case continues today. Now, the family, they need to confirm whether they've managed to secure outstanding evidence. Temel's family are seeking the truth about what, well, is called his alleged suicide in 1971. Then, in Pietermaritzburg, we saw earlier on the news, the trial of 5 KwaZulu-Natal ANC branches face off against the party's provincial chair, Sihle Zikalala, and 38 others in the High Court there. The branches are disputing the 2015 ANC provincial elective result. Now, it's a developing story. A little bit later, we'll go back to Blaine Herman, and he'll give us another update as to what is happening at the High Court sitting in Pietermaritzburg with regards to that dispute. Of course, tomorrow we'll be looking back at what's gone on today at Marikana, and also we'll do our own view on the 5th anniversary of the Marikana massacre. Today, of course, there's a whole range of events happening there. You saw our reporter Olebogen Khoselenchwe. She's there, and she'll give us another update a little bit later as to what is happening there. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll speak to Sonke Gender Justice, and we'll talk about the high levels of gender violence in South Africa and whether we are really serious about dealing with this problem of gender violence here in South Africa. It's a problem that seems to be escalating at times. We've had a very deadly Women's Month. Let's start talking after a short break.
Pattern recourse tackles constitutional issues.
When South Africa became a constitutional democracy, we had a fairly sound legal system in place requiring the Constitution to guide the direction in which it must go and the way in which it must be refashioned.
The Justice Ministry, the custodian of human rights.
We actually have a plan to come up with a comprehensive review of our human rights instruments.
Advocates dealing with evidence.
Sometimes you have to use a crook to catch a crook. So we expected that the credibility would really be taken to task. You try and consult your witnesses and prepare them as best as you can.
Hashtag Rights with Dumila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
Welcome back. You're with Newsroom now. A primary school teacher in Bushbuck Ridge in Mpumalanga was shot dead in full view of her pupils by her husband, who later shot himself. That happened earlier this week on Monday. Now, this is just a tip of the iceberg in increasing violence against women in South Africa. On average, 1 in 5 South African women older than 18 is experiencing physical violence right now. But the picture of gender-based attacks varies according to marital status and also wealth. 4 in 10 divorced or separated women reported physical violence, and has 1 in 3 women in the poorest households. It's a complex picture that emerges in Statistics South Africa's 2016 demographic. Now, to talk to us about this a little bit more, we're joined by Nonhlanhla Skosana, an activist from Sonke Gender Justice. Very good morning to you, Nonhlanhla.
Morning to you and the viewers.
Before we talk about the statistics, of course, the big story in South Africa today is Grace Mugabe's alleged assault on this young woman here in a Sandton hotel. How should we as a society view this kind of thing, a female leader of high standing assaulting another? What does it say about where we are?
I think as a society we need to condemn any type of violence, and we are aware that a lot of violence is happening within our homes, and as Sonke Gender Justice, that is why we support that corporal punishment must be banned in our homes, in schools, in our society as well, because this is how, you know, our society is like fashioned to deal with disputes. You know, we are not in a space where when we are not in agreement with somebody, we can sit down, talk and resolve the issue, but we tend to use violence. So that is why we say corporal punishment must be banned in our homes, in our schools, in our society.
Let's talk about the numbers now. 1 in 5 South African women older than 18 is experiencing physical violence. Why is that, and what has gone wrong?
I think our society has lacked respect, mostly men, and the value of women in their lives. Women are living in a very unsafe space, unfortunately, here in South Africa, and that is why it is important that we need to engage men when we talk about prevention of gender-based violence, to be able to say, if you are a man and you are witnessing any kind of violence that is perpetrated against women, you can be able to say, not in my name, I don't want this to happen, and don't turn a blind eye, get engaged. And the most important part of it is to report the cases, because most of the cases are not reported.
Yeah.
We know that we have an incident now of our Deputy Minister Manana, and you know, people don't expect people of that high profile to behave in this manner. People who are aware that in this country we've got legislations like the Sexual Offences Act that talks against the way they behave. So as a society, we need to be in a point where we say violence in our society is unacceptable, we're reporting cases.
We are in Women's Month, and it's been a very deadly and a very bad Women's Month. These campaigns are not being taken seriously by men in high-ranking positions. Even a host of celebrities have been found guilty of this thing this month in the courts. Firstly, these campaigns are not working. What do we need to do? And secondly, if our leaders and men of high stature are not adhering to campaigns like Women's Month and 16 days, how do we convince the members of the public and other men to accept these campaigns?
To say campaigns are not working, I don't think we will be doing justice to the work that has been done by a number of civil society organizations. Most of the campaigns have informed policies and laws of this country. And also at this present moment, we have a campaign that is called Stop Gender-Based Violence. And in that campaign, as members of civil society, we are pushing that this country needs to have a national strategic plan on gender-based violence. We need commitment from our leaders, from the government, and we need commitment from the Treasury to say we need a plan like we have the HIV a national strategic plan to deal with issues around gender-based violence. So we have campaigns that have showed some kind of positive results, and still we have campaigns that are really pushing towards dealing with issues of gender-based violence. But we are saying to our communities, I've seen the number of people who have tweeted, and it's only 20%, which we're saying to our communities, let us get involved. Let us be part of this struggle that we would like to see our mothers, our sisters living in a society where it's free of violence, and people must be able to live their life to the fullest. And one campaign that I just want to quickly talk about is a campaign that is called Safe Ride Campaign that focuses on taxi drivers. We have really made a lot of improvement in that space because we have got a buy-in from their leadership. We have engaged with individual taxi drivers who has committed themselves to be part of the campaign and try to prevent gender-based violence in that space.
The one problem that we've seen in all of the tweets that come in from our viewers, and it's a constant theme, they're saying if you're famous or if you hold a high office, you get treated differently, and that sets the tone for the entire conversation around gender violence. What do you say to that?
I'm saying it is great that the committee is aware of those kind of injustices that are happening, but also we're saying it is good that we are getting involved. We are putting pressure on government, we are putting pressure on our justice system to say this is not acceptable, this needs to be changed. No one is above the law. Everybody must face the law in terms of their behavior.
What about political parties? Some political parties are accused of also not taking this kind of thing seriously, with some abuses happening amongst their ranks. How do you respond to the work, or what political parties are engaging in?
I think there's a lot that needs to be done in the political parties, because this morning when I was listening to the ex-woman, the woman of Cyril Ramaphosa, the wife, I was a bit disturbed to see how the issue of gender-based violence is used within the political space. You know, for me, it says politicians don't take gender-based violence serious because they use it to discredit or to credit somebody else in that space. And that gives us a message to say they don't see the seriousness of this thing. And that is why we need to engage more and be able to say, let us really understand that when you talk about gender-based violence, you talked about numbers. We're not just talking about numbers, we're talking about human beings. We're talking about South Africans who have voted, who deserve to live in a safe space and who deserve a respect. So we are pleading with the political organization that in whatever way that they would like to raise their numbers, let not it be with gender-based violence. People are being killed, people are raped in front of their own children, and this is a serious issue. We need to see change, and we need to see a very safe space in South Africa for victims of gender-based violence.
We saw a horrific ordeal earlier this week at a Mpumalanga school. We saw a 30-year-old woman being shot in front of grade 2 learners by her partner. Now, she tried to leave a relationship. She tried to get away from this man. She wanted to get a divorce. She didn't get the protection that she deserved in that instance. How do you view that?
We usually encourage women to go and get protection orders, but we are totally aware that women die with protection orders in their bags. And we're saying, you know, really there's something that needs to be done. And when this guy came into the school, you also question the security within the school. But also, you know, you ask yourself, you need to get more information regarding that case to say, did she go and report the case, and what did the police do after that? Because most of the time you find out that women go to the police stations and they've been sent back. You know, they are judged. Maybe they would say, you are a teacher, you can fight this cause, go to your family, talk about it. So we need to be able to monitor these cases. And we're pleading with the committee members to say, let us monitor these cases, let us support victims of gender-based violence, because they talk to other people about these issues that they're going through.
In conclusion, how do we get our women out of abusive relationships?
Women, when they are in an abusive relationship, they need to make a decision. They have the right to make a decision. They are human beings. They make decisions to say, I'm going out of this. But some of them, it's because they have children and their society is stigmatizing women who are getting out of relationships. Then we need to really say no to gender-based violence, but also be encouraging people who are around them to support them, you know, and say it is possible. We will provide any kind of support like in any other space.
Thank you very much for joining us. Nonhlanhla Skhosana is an activist from Sonke Gender Justice. Of course, we're talking gender violence today, and we've been running this poll with regards to gender-based violence. Are we serious about this? Because we run campaigns and we talk a lot, and politicians talk, media talks, everyone's talk. We do a lot of talking, but it doesn't really happen. Let's have a look at that poll quickly. This is, are we serious about tackling gender-based violence? 259 votes in. Still, the numbers say the same. 74% of you are saying, no, we are not serious about dealing with gender-based violence. That is an indictment of us as a society, not the government, not civil society, all of us together. Kendall has just stepped into shot, as you see there. He's here. But before we get to Kendall and talk about that red Springbok jersey, we're going to take you through our Facebook page, because there's a lot happening there. We're updating it. We're putting a lot of new elements in it. Of course, today the case between ANC members supporting their former Premier, Senzo Mchunu, and the ANC KZN leadership is before a full bench of judges in the Pietermaritzburg High Court. We'll give you another update there a little bit later. Then the family of a 23-year-old woman from Richards Bay in northern KwaZulu-Natal went missing 2 months ago. Claims she's been found in a hospital in Nigeria. Then, Science and Technology Minister Naledi Pandor has encouraged women, especially young girls, not to be scared to venture into career fields that are male-dominated. Why are we still having this conversation? All of that and more on our Facebook page. Now, Kendall is here, and we're talking about the red Springbok jersey. Put it up, guys. Let's have a look at that picture. I'll talk to it, Kendall. I really like the red Springbok jersey. It's inspired by the red in the South African flag. I like it, but it's taken a lot of flack from the likes of Bakkies Botha, from the likes, who else? Jake White.
Rob Lowe.
A lot of people are giving it a lot of flack. I just say, guys, get with the program, man. We're in the 21st century. You have to move with the times.
Look, it is a bit jarring, especially if you're not used to it. It's used to the green and gold in different formats, a little bit of gold on the collar, a lot of green on the chest. But here it is. This is what's going to look like out in Salto on the 26th of August, when the Springboks play the second rugby championship match of the season. And this is the jersey, and it's not a spoof. Remember, a couple of years ago, there was some spoof around April Fool's Day about how they're going to be playing in the red. This is the real thing. They're going to be playing in this jersey. And SADC has come out and said, look, it's to celebrate 25 years of unity between the old apartheid rugby board for rugby, as well as all the other rugby boards for all the other people that play rugby in this country. 25 years since then, and that's why they put this jersey in. Look, some of the criticism is around, oh yeah, it's just a marketing ploy to try and sell more jerseys. At least that's what Jake White has to say.
Yeah, but that's smart. Isn't that smart work from the marketers then? You know, I don't know why. We just like to complain in South Africa about everything. Yeah, we have a wonderful red jersey. We ask you guys to tweet us about this red jersey. Have you guys tweeted us?
Has there been anything said about this? I'm sure there's
Let's have a look at a couple of those tweets, because I like the jersey. This one from Jazz Kwepe says, I love it, I will buy it, it is awesome.
Jazz, thank you. Jennifer Rundle says, nasty, must be same people who designed the disgraceful Olympic swimming kit. Pep stores, hashtag.
Jennifer, come on, man. Lechasa tells us, ish, wrong color. I don't like red regalia. The red heads. Hey, Lechasa, you used to be a fighter. You used to call yourself Fighter Molo. Now you've left the EFF.
Katago's in agreement with you. Even Katago says, red is amongst our national flag colors. I'm going to buy it. And just quickly before we go too far away, Thandi Wegula's got one in as well.
Yeah.
She says a red jersey for our Springbok is not representing our boys. Maybe we can use it for training. Our green talks to our mission.
Our flag has got red in it. Why do you guys not want to recognize the fact that our flag has red in it and it's inspired by what is in our flag? World Cup 23 is upon us, and I hope that we take this right through until the World Cup because it looks great.
Yeah, now very, very important one before we let you go and you let me go, is the Rugby World Cup 2023. 15th of November is when the winning bid gets announced, and this is just 3 days after we play Ireland.
Yeah, let's hope we play there. They can keep their green jersey. We'll play in a red one, and hopefully we'll give them a puck on that day. Anyhow, a man that is here is Phil Hawkins. I'd like to know with Phil, before he starts, what he thinks of that red jersey.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Evan. I thought you might ask me that, actually. I'm not as big of a fan as the red jersey as you are, I think. But I agree with you, it's in the flag. I have no problem with it. I definitely prefer the green and gold, though. That's just my standpoint. Let's take a look at what's happening in terms of the weather for today. Of course, the big news for today is that cold front. It's sweeping through the entire central interior for today, moving towards the eastern parts of the country of South Africa. Of course, we expect with that rainfall, showers, thunder showers all the way throughout that southern coastline, the southern interior of South Africa, widespread showers there. And snowfall possible on the highlands between the Western Cape Province through the Eastern Cape's northern regions as well. Now, of course, into tomorrow, we expect that to continue. Of course, as it moves from west to east, that entire low-pressure system is going to bring the rainfall with it. Widespread showers and thunder showers now forecast for parts of KZN as well. But the good news is that higher pressure systems, which are starting to take effect on the western coastline, are going to cause slightly clearer conditions. Really not too much weather to talk about through the rest of southern Africa as it's dry and it's clear. As it usually is in this time of year. So let's take a look in a little bit more detail what's happening. Sutherland 6 degrees for a maximum today, Cape Town 13 and Port Elizabeth 14. All of these areas behind that cold front. Durban just ahead of the cold front at 21 today. Temperature is going to come way down into tomorrow. Pretoria 26 with a sunny sky. Again, tomorrow definitely going to start being affected by that cold front. Now, moving further north, our neighbouring states, it's going to be a beautiful day here in Maun, 36 degrees Celsius, Gaborone 29, Windhoek 25. Of course, we see a little bit of cloud cover around these areas, but no rainfall at all in the neighbouring states, other than, of course, some very, very light, very sparse rainfall around the coastlines. Now, Antananarivo, 30 degrees Celsius. All of the rest of the island nations expecting some cloud cover, some rainfall in Moroni as well as Victoria. And back onto continental Africa, we see that rainfall continuing. Of course, we see it, in fact, intensifying around Bangui, Kampala, Juba, all of these expecting some showers. Dar es Salaam also expecting a bit of rainfall for today. Warm to hot conditions continue in some of these places, but nothing compared to North Africa. First of all, let's take a look at our rainfall. We see it very sparsely populated around that central interior there, but some stormy systems are moving through the area. It is going to be a bit of a wet one, and those wet conditions move quite far north into the center regions of Sudan and Chad. And of course, towards West Africa's southern coastline, again, another windy day for some areas such as the Gambia, between the Gambia and Liberia, expecting quite a lot of rainfall there as well for today, passing storms. Tomorrow should be a lot better in that area, but we do still expect some rainfall. The rainfall this time concentrated in parts of Nigeria, Benin, and that extends all the way through the central interior of the Central African Republic, Cameroon, southern Chad, into Sudan, and then, of course, into Ethiopia as well. Taking a quick look now at what's happening in terms of those temperatures. 39 in Khartoum, very hot there. Addis Ababa, 22 degrees, and temperatures in Jerusalem peak at about 30. This, of course, is where we're going to leave your weather for now. Stay tuned with SABC.
Meningitis is a potentially deadly disease that affects more than 1 million people worldwide each year.
Well, it's an infection of the lining of the brain and the spinal cord. And it's caused by a variety of bacteria.
And also, importantly, with fungal meningitis, there's no transmission from person to person.
In South Africa and elsewhere in the world, the ministries of health etc. have recognized this as an important disease to prevent. And vaccines have been introduced into immunization, routine immunization programs.
It's really important to prevent, and the best way to prevent is to have people know their HIV status, start antiretroviral treatment as soon as possible.
For all your health news, join Health Talk every Saturday from 9 to 10.
Welcome back, everybody. How are you today? Yes, beautiful day here in the city of gold. 25 degrees, Kendall, and the winter has not been here yet, but there's a cold front coming tomorrow, apparently.
Yeah, but you know, it's almost gone because the flowers are blooming, the trees are getting their leaves back, and I'm loving it. It smells like summer almost.
The spiders are out already, and I'm totally freaked out. Anyhow, today, on a serious note, you saw the first hour, we're dealing with gender-based attacks in South Africa now. The official number is that 1 in 5 South African women older than 5 are experiencing physical violence in relationships, which amounts to between 5 and 7 million women being abused in South Africa physically right now, Kendall.
Every time we touch on this topic, it just chills me to the bone that, you know, we're walking with abusers. We're living and walking with people that abuse women. And that's incredibly crazy. And you know what? There's just so many things that have been happening this entire month. And we're asking you today, do you think that we're being serious about tackling gender-based violence in South Africa?
Well, we've got, the numbers haven't changed. Well, the votes are going up, but the percentages are staying the same. Of course, it's Women's Month here in South Africa. We've just celebrated Women's Day, and we heard a lot of pronouncements on it. But the perception out there is that we're not serious about this thing, Kendall.
Clearly not. Of the 272 votes that we've got in, our viewers say 74% of them say no, we're not serious about it.
Yeah, let's have a look at your tweets. What are they saying? This one from Kumaran Govindsamy says to us, Newsroom, if we were serious, we wouldn't have our Deputy Minister of Higher Education beating on women. Firm but fair.
Absolutely, and Dipansu says, it's all talk. Our society is so comfortable with it, and leaders themselves are involved with women abuse.
Oof. Yeah, we're talking about this kind of thing, and we're talking and we're talking and we're talking, and the numbers are not coming down. No. Some campaigns are working and some are not working. We will continue with the conversation here on the national broadcaster for the foreseeable future, because it's all of our responsibility, Kendall, to take part in bringing the numbers down. But Grace Mugabe, of course, is the big story today, and you've seen some interesting stuff coming out of
Very interesting stuff has come out. From earlier this morning, I saw that ZANU-PF on their official Twitter account had actually tweeted some 16, 17 hours ago that yes, Grace Mugabe had arrived in Harare last night.
Now, the thing that I saw on the Facebook post there was the
description of the incident.
They're saying that these women are trying to marry into the first family to try and infiltrate them.
Oh, and that's why the description that I'd seen was how agent provocateurs had drugged and were abusing her sons, and she'd come in to rescue them.
Let's have a look at the tweets on that question, where is Grace Mugabe? Now, we know that she's back in Zimbabwe. What happened to Grace Mugabe? There you see that horrific scar that was left on the forehead of this young lady. Of course, she's a model, and she says she'll never work again. Lachasa tweets us, Grace Mugabe is treated like a queen, he says.
Yeah, very thoughtful, Lechasa. The Malibongo says Grace Mugabe does not have respect for our country. Simple.
Yep, these are the sentiments that are out there. Keep tweeting us and we'll keep on putting it up, of course. A little bit earlier, we had that discussion around the new red jersey. Some people say they just don't like the color red.
Yeah.
Others are saying they love it, Kendall. We're asking you, what do you make of the Springboks new jersey? It's red.
We'd like to find out from you. They're going to be wearing this particular red jersey. They're going to be wearing it when they play Argentina in 2 weeks' time. Yes, they're playing Argentina in the traditional green and gold.
Do you have the picture of this red jersey, guys?
But coming up, beautiful 2 weeks from now, that jersey that you can see that the current captain is going to be wearing without Warren Whiteley, that Eben Etzebeth is wearing, that red jersey is what the Springboks will be wearing in Argentina.
Yeah, some of your tweets, guy. Eddie Hindongo, he says to us, it's new and fantastic. I love it. Eddie, I'm with you, my friend. I support it. I love it. I think whenever there's a little bit of change, it's just a beautiful thing.
Jazz Kwepe, I love it. I'll buy it. It's awesome.
Yeah, there's some people who don't like it. Jake White doesn't like it. Bakis Buerta doesn't like it.
Yep, and an old stalwart, Rob Lowe, former VFP and Springbok player, doesn't like it.
Yeah, Rob has always been a very open-minded guy back in the day. What has happened, Rob? Anyhow, that's where we leave it with the Springbok jersey. Kenda Mahamati and myself will bring you the headlines now, right until the top of the next hour. Today marks the 5th anniversary of the Marikana killings, during which 34 mine workers were shot and killed by police. 5 more ANC members of Parliament are in hot water for boycotting a meeting of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration yesterday. Moving on to the continent, at least 600 people are reportedly missing. This on top of the nearly 400 that has been killed in the mudslide in Sierra Leone. Now, moving on to sports, the headlines with Kendall.
Evan, thank you very much. Good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today.
They are very proud in what they do, and I believe, you know, that brings that extra motivation and that extra fire in the belly.
After being matched pound for pound by Argentina in their last 3 outings, the Springboks will not be taking anything for granted when they play the South Americans in their Rugby Championship opener this weekend. And Bafana struggled to get a team together for the second leg chance qualify against Zambia, as PSL clubs recall players for the start of the league.
We have to respect this because this is not a FIFA date, and good cooperation between coaches and clubs, I think, is very important.
The US Open gives disgraced former world #1 Maria Sharapova a wild card entry into the final Grand Slam of the year.
News, as you see from that strap we're just running, we've got the stories developing as we speak. We'll share the information as it comes in. Zambian opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema has reportedly been freed. The United Party for National Development leader Hichilema and 5 others were arrested in April of this year and charged with treason. This after they failed to make way for President Edgar Lungu's motorcade. We will bring you the details of the story as they come in, but right now, Hakainde Hichilema has been freed in Zambia. That story is developing as we speak. Now, let's get back to the top story today in South Africa, with the 5th anniversary of the Marikana tragedy of 2012 being commemorated on Thursday, the 16th. We look back at the events 5 years ago now.
The 16th of August 2012, one of the worst industrial strikes in post-apartheid South Africa. Not since the 1960 Sharpeville massacre had the country seen such a horrific loss of life at the hands of police. The shooting down of 34 miners at a copy near Lonman's K4 shaft at Marikana was condemned the world over, and led to the setting up of the Marikana Commission of Inquiry by President Jacob Zuma. Its mandate to probe what contributed to the strike of 3,000 miners and the socio-economic issues that had exacerbated the situation. The determination of the miners to fight for what they believed in took lawmen by surprise. The miners were angry. In the preceding days before the tragic events at Wonderkop, 10 people were killed, 2 of them policemen, 2 others lawmen security guards, 6 were colleagues. The situation had become a powder keg, ready to explode. Several factors came into play. Various political and industrial heads intervened to try and calm the situation. A police operation was put into place to disarm and defuse the angry miners. That operation was called D-Day. It culminated in a horrific event that left the country reeling. Police denied that they'd used undue brutality and set out to prove their case at the Marikana Commission.
From the available evidence, it is very difficult to see from a legal perspective how the police can argue that they used minimum force, which is what they are required to do, when they acted against the miners. Because if you kill more than 30 people and there was no obvious threat to the lives of the police officers, one will have to ask questions about where the excessive force was not used.
Since the Marikana Commission began its work, 56 witnesses have testified. Chair Judge Ian Farlam and his commissioners have heard from the police, lawmen, the injured and arrested miners, AMKU and the NUM. Several high-profile individuals also took to the witness stand, each denying any overt role in the shootings. 279 miners were charged with the murder of their fallen colleagues.
The decision to charge the miners who were arrested by the police for the murder of their colleagues who were shot by the police was a dark day in the history of the National Prosecuting Authority. There was no evidence that those 200-odd miners had done anything wrong, especially not committed any murder, and really looked like the state had prejudged the situation and were aggressively misusing their powers to try and attack a weakened group of people.
Then Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa testified that he'd heard about the shootings through the media, while Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa denied that the controversial email he'd sent to lawmen executives on concomitant action to be taken in Marikana was meant to exert political pressure on politicians. Ramaphosa was a lawman director and major shareholder. The former Minister of Minerals, Susan Shabangu, was adamant that her actions were not dictated by undue influence, and that her characterization of the strike in Marikana as a criminal element was justified. National Police Commissioner Ria Piecha maintained her office's actions were just, as they were facing a life or death situation. More than a year of simmering tensions in the platinum sector followed after Marikana. It culminated in a protracted strike called by AMKU in January 2014. It took 5 months for that strike to be resolved. Then elected Minister of Resources, Mwako Ramatlhodi, brokered an agreement that saw miners receive a 1,000 Rand increase in their salaries and a once-off bonus of 2,000 Rand. Critics, however, believed that arrangement did not go far enough in addressing the socio-economic challenges faced by the miners. In 2015, President Jacob Zuma released his findings on the Marikana Commission.
The Commission also found that the operation should have been stopped after the shooting at Scene 1.
It recommended an inquiry be held into Piecha's fitness to hold office, but the findings and resolutions would be met with mixed reactions. Nozintombi Mia, SABC News.
Yeah, hundreds of mine workers, relatives of the miners and residents of Marikana have started arriving at the Kopi, a site where, of course, the 34 mine workers were shot and killed on this day in 2012. The 5th year of the Marikana commemoration will see mining houses, political parties, religious leaders and other stakeholders come together and remember the country's bloodiest tragedy post-democratic dispensation. Now, to find out what's happening on the ground there right now, we are joined by our reporter, Oleboheng Khosilentre. Very good morning to you, Lebo. Thank you for being there with us. Just give us a quick idea, what is happening there right now?
Welcome once again to Marikana. Even I certainly hope that you can hear me because the official program is about to begin right now and there's quite a lot of noise coming from the stage on my left-hand side. Some music performances are being done, you know, just in preparation of the official commemoration to begin. But what I can say right now is that if you can see behind me, I'm just going to ask our camera operator to pan to the right-hand side to show you that indeed scores of miners have started together on the main Kopi. That is where the mine workers would gather even to hold these talks with their leader, AMCU leader Joseph Mathunjwa, in the days leading to the 16th of August in 2012. But I must also highlight even that the people that we're expecting here today have not arrived because they are stuck on the N4. People coming from Pretoria, the East, Pretoria, including Johannesburg, are stuck on the N4 because you remember that there is a protest by residents of Majakane here in the Northwest Province. Remember that residents there are accusing a local farm owner of the disappearing, of kidnapping or the disappearance of a young man who was said to be caught stealing oranges on his farm. So some people will be delayed. AMCU leader Joseph Mathunjwa, as well as some of the attorneys or the lawyers, legal representatives for the widows here in Marikana. We understand, however, that EFF leader Julius Malema is in Rustenburg and that he will be making his way to Marikana as soon as he can. For now, I'm going to invite to talk to me just a normal South African citizen who came here to witness this event. Dumela mma, ntlhalosetse gore wena o tle go dira mo gompieno.
Na de project maubani ba bana vela venda. No dava no na musi u dorira na ba mita bo siwa nga bo khotsi avo nga 2012.
Even she says that she comes all the way from Venda, I beg your pardon, to come and see for herself because she's always been seeing this on the television. She knows about Marikana from TV. Now she has come here to witness and to remember the fallen heroes of Marikana. With that, it's back to you in the studio.
Yeah, thank you very much to Oleboheng there, coming to you live from Vonderkop. That's the Kopi, of course, just outside Marikana. That's our reporter, Oleboheng Khosilentre, broadcasting live there. And she'll give us periodic updates throughout the day there from Vonderkop. Now, we're moving on. 5 ANC members of Parliament who boycotted a meeting of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration yesterday will face a disciplinary hearing. The 5 have told ANC Chief Whip Jackson Mthembu that they object to working under ANC MP Makozikoza, who has openly called on President Jacob Zuma to resign. The spokesperson for the ANC Chief Whip, Nongaba Mhlauli, says their action amounts to gross ill-discipline. Meanwhile, the parliamentary committee led by ANC MP Makozikoza is taking a tough stance against Public Service and Administration Minister Faith Mutambi. It has resolved to subpoena the minister to appear before it after she failed to pitch yesterday. She was expected to brief the committee on reports that she flew about 30 of her family members and friends to attend her budget vote, as well as claims that she dished out jobs to friends and family.
It's a dereliction of duty, the fact that she's promised to come here to table a report verbally about the concerns that many members of the public have and members of Parliament, and it's just simply given us the middle finger.
Minister Faith Mutambi is running away to be held accountable about the reports of nepotism, but also the reports of corruption that are happening in her department under her instructions.
Zimbabwean First Lady Grace Mugabe appears to have left South Africa after failing to hand herself over to the police for allegedly assaulting a woman in Sandton, north of Johannesburg, over the weekend. Zimbabwean government sources, the DA and some South African media have all stated that she returned home late last night. Mugabe allegedly assaulted a 20-year-old model, Gabriella Engels, with an extension cord. Engels filed an assault charge and police said there were negotiations for Mugabe to hand herself over. Meanwhile, political analyst Professor Somadore Fikeni says it could be that we had a similar situation to that of Omar al-Bashir, where law enforcement was thwarted behind the scenes.
It might as well be that you have a situation as Bashir, where behind the scenes discussions over what could have been diplomatic embarrassment was happening, and the law enforcement therefore was thwarted in that sense. And I wonder if there was clear communication between those who might have been facilitating the exit of the Zimbabwean First Lady and the Minister of Police, because these days it might as well be that his communication might not have been informed by those particular processes.
All right, but what do we expect to do? Because there are reports also coming out this morning saying that from the sources in the Zimbabwean government saying that she actually went back home last night. And we know that her husband is expected to come to South Africa today for the heads of states meeting taking place in Pretoria. Are we likely to see anything happening today?
I doubt, except the statements, the First Lady of Zimbabwe might just avoid South Africa for the meantime because of this legal awkwardness. At the same time, it will raise questions about the immunity and the diplomatic immunity. What are its boundaries and how is it applied? And also all these things do often around the multinational conferences like the SADC one that is coming, as it was the case with the AU, how we have not learned on how to handle these things in a seamless manner while still maintaining the national interest of the country. It's a question that has to be raised at this point.
Story that's caused a sensation on social media, as you can expect, and that's why we put the question to you today. What has happened, or what happened to Grace Mugabe? Lots of people have different views and different opinions. On the left, you see, of course, the wound inflicted on Gabriella Engels, the model that was supposedly, allegedly assaulted by Grace Mugabe in a Sandton hotel room. Let's take a look at some of your tweets on this question we put forward. This one from Sisonke Mlamla, who says to us, Newsroom, Grace Mugabe went to Zimbabwe to make the things that make the court cases not to be done. Malibonga Manyonya tells us Grace Mugabe doesn't have respect for our country. Simple. And Lechasa Butler Molo tweets us. He says, Grace Mugabe is treated like a queen. Yeah, keep tweeting us on that question. What happened to Grace Mugabe? Some say she left late last night. Others say they saw her motorcade early this morning. Anyhow, it's a story that's going to carry on for the next few days, no doubt. In international news now, we move on. The Sierra Leone government has confirmed that at least 600 people are still missing following the mudslide that engulfed hundreds of homes on the outskirts of the capital, Freetown, on Monday. They describe Sierra Leone as a country in mourning, though authorities say rescue workers have discovered nearly 400 bodies. These bodies have so far been recovered. Sierra Leone's president, Ernest Bai Koroma, issued a desperate appeal for help whilst visiting the region village on the outskirts of the capital. It's one of the worst hit areas in a disaster that has wiped out entire communities there. Now, time for a short commercial break. You're watching Newsroom. We'll be back with more right after this.
What guides us? Is it something you can see?
We need deliverance from sin, because God never
Hear?
carry on working to spread the message
Feel?
to the whole world.
Or touch? What leads us onto greater experiences? Is it the words of our sacred texts? The advice of our elders? Or is it the actions of our people? The strength of our beliefs? Or the voices of our citizens? Your country is guided by the voices of its people, and your broadcaster is dependent on your voice to guide it. Get your copy of the SABC's editorial policy and have your say.
Of course. Today, welcome back, mind you. Of course, today we're running a poll and it deals with a theme that, of course, is close to the hearts of most South Africans because we're dealing with it with such great difficulty, and that is gender violence here in South Africa. And we've been asking you, our viewers, to tell us, what do you think? What is the problem that we're having with bringing down gender-based violence? The latest statistic says that 1 in 5 South Africans over 18 are the victims right now of gender-based violence. Now, we've got 272 votes in. 272 votes are in right now, and still 74%, that's been consistent the whole day, are saying, nope, we are not serious about dealing with this thing. The Proudly Koi Koi tweets us, says, it is an inbred culture. Men are superior than women. Only maturity and love for your neighbor will eradicate this. Then Eddie Haindongo tells us, no, we are not. For as long as the justice system protects the high-profile citizens and treat low-class citizens unfairly, we have a long way to go. This one from Sipho Mthembu says to us, if all political parties can come together in Parliament and deal with this instead of fighting over one person, then we will be. That's a very interesting take on the entire matter. Wow. Interesting take. What do you think on that? Stop focusing on one individual and let's come together and sort out all the problems that we face in South Africa. Well, interesting one. Now, the South African Book Development Council will be hosting the South African Book Fair, which will take place at the Museum Africa in Newtown, Johannesburg from the 8th until the 10th of September. Now, the council encourages South Africans, the government and the book industry to celebrate their heritage and diversity and to also bring to the fore the South African narrative, the South African story through their support of the South African Book Fair. Now, to talk to us about the Book Fair, well, we're joined by Elitha van der Sant, the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Book Development Council. Very good morning to you, Elitha. Nice to have you back with us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me again.
Now, before we talk about the book fair, I know there's a lot of stuff for us to get through. Of course, the one book that's caused all the consternation here in South Africa the last week or so has been Panang's latest book and all the errors that were in the book. Now, you're in the know. How does a book go to print with all these kinds of errors in it? And who should take responsibility for that, you think?
I think that those who were responsible for it have taken responsibility for it. But what I certainly want to say is that this is part of the misperceptions that we face around the book. The book is a product that has a range of professionals that work on the book in order to ensure that we get a quality book to the people at the end of the day. So editing, which is often neglected, not necessarily in the book industry, but by self-publishing and all those other things, is a key part of ensuring that we get a very good quality book out to our people in South Africa.
Yeah, I know if I write a book, I'm going to heed those words, definitely.
Don't just write your own book and get it out to market. There's a range of professionals involved, yes, before you get it out.
Absolutely, and we all try and do this kind of thing on the cheap, I suppose, but it is what it is. That ship has sailed. Let's talk about the book fair. I'm more concerned about whether we are a reading nation. Are we?
We can speak about National Book Week and the book fair. So from the 4th to the 10th is National Book Week. The book fair is part of National Book Week. So we are doing reading promotion as well. We're still sitting at 14% of committed book readers in South Africa. 14% committed book readers in South Africa. In 2006, that was the figure. We did a new study last year, same figure. However, we have about 1 million more book readers than we had before.
What kind of books do we read in South Africa?
The books that are tops, funnily enough, are your religious books. So we find that religious books sell quite a lot. Fiction and non-fiction do almost equally. But there's a range of books. South Africa loves a range of things. And then also the love stories.
Wow. I'm not surprised that religion and love are right up there when it comes to books. It's also the things that make the, brings the most viewership numbers in television and so forth in South Africa. Anyhow, talk to us about the week in the fair, the kind of sessions we're going to see there. What's the kind of things that we should be looking out for?
Okay, so for the book fair, it's the first time we're hosting it as the South African Book Development Council. We are positioning it as a truly African fair, so inclusive. So you'll even see it in our program. So our program is quite diverse. There's a range of issues that are being discussed. And we have a range of things available for family, for the more serious reader, current affairs, arts and culture. We have you and Brazix coming in and having a chat during this. We have James and the Giant Peach, which is a children's theatre production.
An iconic one, actually.
Yeah. And so we have a range of things available for everyone in the country.
I'm very interested in this African story because it's something I deal a lot with here. It's around decolonization of knowledge and decolonization of education and the decolonization of our history. We've just had an uproar around the movie Kratoa and how history was changed a little bit. I'm sure you've done the reading. I was very much involved in the fighting that went on social media because I thought it was just totally offside to change the story or the historical narrative right at the beginning of how South Africa was founded. When we talk about decolonization and African stories, how is it going to play out with this theme that we've got, telling African stories?
Okay, so I'm so glad you raised the Kratoa issue because it's actually centered to what we are trying to do. So the theme is #OurStories.
Yes.
So our stories as in we tell the stories, we write the stories, we own the stories as well. So that our stories are not told on our behalf.
Yes.
And we are very pleased that Kratoa actually happened now because we have the director of the SAN Council also coming to the book fair, specifically speaking about what the research ethic should be when we are engaging with communities. And so we'll be learning all about that too. How do we actually deal with these issues?
I'm very interested in that because I've taken a lot of abuse and I've handed out a lot of abuse on social media because I personally think that when you're dealing with this concept, they called it historical facts and poetic license. It has no place when you're telling stories based on truthful events. The movie played out something that I thought was horrific because of the way that Jan van Riebeeck was portrayed and the way that the rape scenes, especially in that, almost as if these, as if the native women of the time enjoyed that kind of interactions and so forth. So there's much responsibility when we deal with historical facts, isn't there?
There is, absolutely, and that's why the session that the SAN Council is coming to do is so important.
Yeah.
Because they give us a whole range of things that need to be done in order to be telling these stories if we are telling it on someone else's behalf.
Yeah.
For example, Kratua should be told by you and I.
Yes.
And we should be the ones standing behind the camera and directing and all of those things as well. And so we really need to make an effort to ourselves also step up.
Yep.
And become part of what happens in this country and how it is being told.
Elitha, the thing that kills me when we talk about Kratua is that I have a friend of mine, a colleague, a cinematographer, who for more than 20 years tried to raise the money to tell the story of Kratua and couldn't. There was just not an appetite for that community to tell its own story. And that's part of the challenge. Someone like Roberto Durant could click her fingers and the money would suddenly become available. How do we overcome that challenge of the funding for these historical stories?
I think we need to knock on the right doors, and the right doors is that government, for example, have incentives for film and film production and to transform those that are telling the stories and so on. And so we need to make, I think the social media outcry that is happening is very helpful in getting us to speak to those who have the funding and saying that it's our time to be telling these stories ourselves as well.
I'm glad you're telling me that. I'm going to quote you on it when I ask for the money because I want to personally remake Kratua myself. I'm speaking to a director, an Australian guy, South African of birth. His name is Seth Lani. He's a guy that's going to hopefully try and find some money to remake this movie and tell a more historical story. Neither here nor there. Let's go back to National Book Week. Quickly, why is these events so important? And also tell us where can people interact with the tickets and so forth.
Okay. The events are important because too few of us are still reading in South Africa. Historically, it's not just that we weren't telling our own stories, but we weren't reading our own stories too. It is absolutely important. I believe that the book is the most important tool for the development of South Africa at large.
Yep.
All you need to do is to pick up a book and read. And it's quite an inexpensive tool. So we all need to have a responsibility to get more people reading. And I hope you're going to go out and buy a book for 20 Rand, which is part of our campaign.
Yeah.
Get more books into households. And you can read more. The event, National Book Week, happens throughout the country, in all the provinces. And then we end up with a book fair in Newtown, Museum Africa. And you can go to the South African Book Development Council's website, sabookcouncil.co.za, or the South African bookfair.co.za for more information.
That's fantastic. It's a conversation I'm having with my children as well. And I'm one of the 14%, and my son is 16, and he's not. And we kind of, well, we're kind of rubbing each other a little bit about reading a little bit more. So I'm going to bring him to the book fair and show him that, you know, it's not just about TV games. We should play a little bit more books. Kids today just want to play games. But you can tell me offline how we're going to overcome that challenge. Elitha van der Sant is the Chief Executive Officer of the South African Book Development Council. And of course, the book week is from the 8th until the 10th.
No, from the 4th to the 10th
from the 4th.
is National Book Week.
From the 4th until the 10th is National Book Week, and the 8th till the 10th is the National Book Fair. That's in September. That's the first week of spring. Should be a wonderful week here in Johannesburg. Thanks, Elitha.
My pleasure. Thank
for
you.
correcting me as well. Anyhow, let us cross now to the 37th Annual SADC Council and Summit. This is where our reporter Patricia Fasach is attending the official opening of the Council of Ministers meeting ahead of this 37th SADC Summit. Hello, Patricia, are you there?
I'm here. Welcome back to the 37th SADC Summit here in Pretoria, and thank you so much if you have just joined us. Now, the focus since yesterday morning has been on the ministerial meeting that has been taking place since early yesterday morning, and it's expected to conclude this afternoon. Now, several meetings, very important meetings, have been taking place behind closed doors, where a lot of burning issues that, of course, affect the region has been discussed or have been you know, top of the agenda in those close meetings. You know, the issue on industrialization to, of course, strengthen the economy and create better partnership with the private sector. That is part of what is on top of the agenda at these various meetings. And earlier I spoke to the Deputy Prime Minister of Namibia, and that is Netembo Nandi Ndaitwa, who took us through some of the burning issues that they have been discussing in these ministerial meetings that have been taking place since yesterday. So I started off by asking her, you know, what are the reforms that they have adopted in those meetings, and perhaps what the way forward is. So let's go to that interview.
You know, as you know that the agenda of SADC is the integration, economic integration of the region, and all the agenda of SADC are to focus on the how we could integrate the region. And you recall that the past 3 years there has been always different themes which are aligned to the work of the SADC. But the most important thing is that it was in 2015 when the SADC industrialization strategy was adopted in Victoria Falls. And since then, there has been then a lot of work to operationalize the SADC industrialization strategy. And this particular summit is now going to look at how much has been achieved and what should be done for us to ensure that the industrialization is taking place in SADC. Now, as part of the SADC industrialization strategy, there was also this issue of value addition and beneficiation, which has been really central, particularly from the Victoria Falls. And there is also an agreement on a protocol on agreeing on how the SADC countries could share in terms of service delivery. And based on that, there are priority areas that have been identified. Some of those priority areas is like agro-processing, ICT, communication, health, as well as tourism. Now, during this meeting, there is now a focus on how would now countries could be able to implement those programs. And there is also the issue of free trade, which is also on the agenda. And all of these things, when you put them together, then they all boil to the industrialization of the region. If you look at the theme of this summit, which is partnering with the private sector for industry and regional value chain. Again, if you have a strong regional value chain, then you understand that you are talking about the industrialization that will have a direct impact on the people of the region. Because one of the challenges the region is facing now is the issue of unemployment, the issue of skills in the region. So within the framework of the SADC industrialization strategy, they have built in the issue of skill development, and then the question of value chain. Value chain, simply to say, in order to distribute the work within the region so that each country will be able to benefit. If, for example, you take one commodity, it can start in one country and then processed through 5 countries, for example. Now, along that chain, you are creating different jobs. And also remember that SADC, like other African countries, is a region that is demographically we have so many young people, and we need to create the necessary jobs for these young people. So these are really the issues that have been focused on. And then another sector that has been looked into is the issue of the social welfare, particularly on the issue of health. So that's why during this meeting, there has been also discussions on issues related to HIV/AIDS, TB, and malaria. And there is even a program for SADC to produce her own pharmaceuticals, focusing on anti-malaria, anti-TB, antiviral therapies, and in order to make sure that we create our own health population that will be able to carry forward SADC programs.
Let's go back to the issue of youth unemployment. As you said, right now, it's perhaps one of the biggest issues. There's a lot of young people in SADC, whether it's South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and so forth. How does that issue of high unemployment among the youth make it perhaps difficult for leaders in SADC to reach their goals, their objectives, the ideals of seeing a better SADC, the great SADC that we heard even the minister speaking about earlier?
Maybe not necessarily making it difficult, but rather giving SADC leaders an opportunity to find ways how they will make sure that the youth and women in the SADC region are being empowered with the necessary skills that will enable them to bring out their full potentials so that they can contribute to the industrialization and the development of SADC. So I really don't want people to think that having a big population of the youth is a problem, but rather an opportunity, because that is the asset that the region is having. And what is important is just to draw up strategies on how best you can make use of this asset that we are having. So that is why at the last summit, which was in Swaziland, there was an idea has been brought up and accepted to put up a university of transformation, and that is focusing on the young people of Africa, young people of SADC, both male and female, and the whole idea is to create necessary skills within the SADC region, which is necessary for industrialization. And once you do that, then you'll be able to create, they will be able to be more innovative. So because through the process, you are going to create entrepreneurs. And these are the entrepreneurs that you need, because they will grow the SADC economy. And when the SADC economy has grown and wealth has been created, then you have the necessary jobs. And remember, when people are having jobs, then you are in any way dealing with the issue of poverty eradication. So because people will be able to take care of themselves. So this is the focus of the SADC heads of states and government.
Now, linking back to the theme this year, which areas within the private sector has been identified, perhaps by your meeting, that you would like to, form close ties with to reach your ideals of course, partnering with the private sector to help SADC develop and grow economically?
The service sector is one sector that has been identified because it has a great potential of growing. For example, if you take the financial sector, if you take the tourism sector, if you take the education sector, if you take the health sector, those are to provide services that are necessary in any community. And then other sectors, as I've mentioned earlier, is the communication sector. So you need to ensure that your goods and services can be moving freely within the region. And then you have also the communication sector, ICT, communication technology sector, has been also identified. And then the issue of agro-processing, the agriculture, because food security is very, very important in the industrialization. You have to appreciate that most of the SADC countries are agroeconomy, which is dominant. But then, as you know, that the agroeconomy is always to feed also the other industries. So you need to strengthen that. We are fully aware of the climatic situation, which has a direct impact on agriculture, but that has not to deter us from thinking how we can improve on our agriculture production, because currently you can also talk about conservation agriculture, whereby you are looking at the agricultural product where you don't need a lot of water, which will make you still to produce more with very little water. So those are some of the sectors that has been identified by SADC as having a potential of driving the industrialization in the region.
Now, these sound like great plans that are being tabled by the leaders here, but we often wonder whether the right attitude to implement those plans is there, and the political will really to see through these reforms to make sure that, as I said earlier, that we all see the SADC that we would like to see. So is there enough political will? Is there a culture of really seeing these reforms through and implementing them to the T?
Yes, there's definitely a political will, and that is why we are talking about partnership with the private sector. And you realize that recently there has been always the mobilization of the private sector to be brought on board. And you find that SADC member states have been creating forums where the private sector and the government comes together in order to come up with a common approach to our development plans. At the same time, you have also the general public that is also coming on board. So you are really seeing that there's a political will and there are concrete action that will be taken. So when I mention the whole issue of the SADC industrialization strategy that was done in closer consultation with the private sector as well as the civil society, were also consulted at the time of developing it. And now we are getting into the level of implementation. So definitely there is a political will, and you could see that all stakeholders, they are getting interest in making sure that SADC programs are put into concrete action and not just to remain in paper. So what we really need is for our people to have a positive attitude as to what we want to do, because that is the key that can help when everybody starts to own the process of what we are doing and not to think about them and us, but to be part of the team that is going to take us a long way.
Okay, we are running out of time right now. Let's, in closing, focus on the issue of peace, security and political stability. Now, there are two countries within the SADC bloc that have been making headlines over the past year. That is the DRC and Lesotho. If maybe you can share with us what are some of the steps planned to restore peace and I don't know, security in those countries, and make sure that there is I don't know, stable politics moving forward in Lesotho and of course DRC that we know failed to have their elections as planned. So what are some of the steps taken for those countries?
Anyway, starting with Lesotho, I think we have to congratulate the people of Lesotho that they held a very peaceful elections. There's now a new prime minister, a new government, and we have all the confidence, the hopes that the people of Lesotho, they have also taken now a decision to put to end whatever problems they were having. Of course, SADC will continue to monitor because there's a SADC roadmap which has been set up, and the government of Lesotho has agreed, and within the SADC mechanism, there is the SADC organ, which is given the responsibility to oversee the political situation, in the region. So they are following on that. They are a team that is working with the government of Lesotho just to see how they could implement the SADC roadmap. On the issue of DRC, yes, the DRC situation remains with us. Elections were planned to take place this year. From all what is happening now is so clear, they will not be taking place. But the government of DRC, with particular reference to the Electoral Commission, they have indicated that they are putting everything in place for elections to take place sometimes next year in April, and we hope that's what's going to happen. SADC has discussed the matter, particularly at the level of the SADC Committee on Organ on Politics, Defense and Security, and SADC will strengthen her presence in DRC during this process when the people of DRC are preparing themselves to go for elections. So we will continue to be closely monitoring the situation, and we really believe that the people of DRC will take a decision to make sure that peace and stability has returned to their country.
All right. Thank you so much, Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, and I want just to conclude by wishing the women of South Africa all the best as we are celebrating the Women Month in South Africa, and to wish them well and to tell you that there's no way we can talk about development if both men and women are not equally participating. Thank you very much.
That was the Deputy Prime Minister of Namibia, Netembo Nandi-Ndaitwah, who of course is also the Minister of International Relations in Namibia, taking us through some of the important points that have been top of the agenda at the ministerial meetings here at the 37th SADC Summit that has been taking place, those meetings that have been taking place since early this morning. And she, of course, also again highlighted that the political situation in the DRC is one of the issues that they have been discussing in those close meetings, telling us that as SADC leaders, they have decided that the DRC will go to the polls next year, April, just to try and find a solution in that country. Of course, a lot of issues on the table. For now, the closed meetings have resumed, and again we will be back at 3 o'clock, and that's when we will hear more information coming out from the meetings that are taking place. Now the ministerial meetings are wrapping up today, and after 3 o'clock the SADC ministers who have been meeting, as I said, since early yesterday morning, will be coming back to finalize a draft report. Now this report will be tabled to the heads of state that will be coming later this week to join the summit, and they of course will have the last decision to see what some of the reforms are, what some of the agreements are that have been tabled, that have been taken by the leaders that have been meeting in the ministerial meetings, and whether those decisions can be implemented, can be taken forward. So we here will continue with interviews, and of course we'll bring you an update in terms of what is happening. For now, I think it's back to you guys in the studio.
The Law Society has slammed notices sent to 4 universities to jack up standards or risk losing their LLB courses The Council on Higher Education issued a stern warning to the universities to conform within 6 months.
I think it will affect the university. I think outside the law faculty, there's a funding issue.
It's been 112 years since Enoch Sontonga died as a relatively unknown composer, choir master and teacher. But today his legacy lives on through his greatest composition, Nkosi Sikeleli Afrika.
For all your news updates, stay tuned to Your World from Monday to Sunday.
What is environmental health?
In Section 24 of the Constitution, the environmental right has a second part, which is to encourage people to be active citizens and gives us the right to participate in politics and organize and raise awareness so that the environmental right can be guaranteed.
Using coal and wood and paraffin to cook with or to heat their space or to heat water. These are basic fundamentals, and I think if we can address that alone, we will make a huge impact, an environmental impact on the health of our population.
Food that comes into the country, the vigilance at the ports and harbours is being checked at the moment currently by environmental practitioners who are port officers at those ports. They need to be more stringent in terms of control of what comes into the country.
Join Health Talk every Saturday for all your health news.
Welcome aboard. This is the final hour here in the newsroom, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin.
I'm Kendo Makamate.
We'll be with you until 12 o'clock now. Today we focus on an issue that affects all women in the country, Kendall, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're talking about violence against women, and it's been the month of basically campaigns against abuse of women. We even had Women's Day in this month, and the attacks on women have skyrocketed in this month. And,
1 in 5.
1 in 5.
1 in 5 women are being abused. So let's take a look at the poll, because we put it up in a poll for you and we want you to interact with us. We're asking you, are we serious about tackling gender-based violence in South Africa? Thus far, 316 votes in, 75% of you are saying no. And 25% are saying, yes, we are serious.
Yes, now let's see what's being said on our social media about this very serious and pertinent question.
This one from Eddie says, the justice system is useless when coming to the high-profile citizens. They rather protect them than let justice prevail.
See, Pumtembu says, no, we don't. If someone from outside the country comes and assaults someone here and just leaves, that means we're not taking it seriously.
Those are some of your comments. Please keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But we're also talking about, in our question, the focus is on the Zimbabwean First Lady who disappeared, disgracefully, some say, out of South Africa. So that is why we're asking this question to you today.
What happened to Grace Mugabe? We thought she was appearing in court yesterday. I am Mochana says, money talks.
Money talks, and you know what walks. There you have it. Khasa says, it is clear that our justice system is targeting poor and low-profile persons like me. Grace Mugabe should be arrested. Yes, there you have it. Please keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue, but we're also focusing on the box this morning, the Springboks. And there's, of course, a red jersey. Let some people see red.
Yeah, look, I mean, just last week, Saro announced that there'd be, the Springboks will be playing in Salta, Argentina next week in a red jersey. We want to know from you, what do you make of the Springboks' new red away jersey?
This is what you are telling us on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. Michael Bigham says, the last time I checked, the national side in sport can use any color within its flag when it comes to jersey colors, and red is in our South African colors and our flag.
Eddie Handongo says, it's new and fantastic, I love it. So there's some positivity around the new red away jersey, and it's a once-off, I believe.
Yes. Of course, not all see red. So there you have it. Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But right now, let's take a look at your news headlines. Today marks the 5th anniversary of the Marikana killings, during which 34 miners were shot and killed by police. 5 more ANC members in Parliament are in hot water for boycotting a meeting of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Public Service and Administration yesterday. And on the continent, at least 600 people are reported to be missing. Now, this is on top of the nearly 400 that has been killed in the Sierra Leone mudslide. Sad story there indeed, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall what's happening on the sports front.
Thank you very much, Elvis. Good morning. This is what we've got planned for you in the sports today.
They're very proud in what they do, and I believe, you know, that brings that extra motivation and that extra fire in the belly.
After we matched pound for pound by Argentina in their last few outings, the Springboks will not be taking anything for granted. They play the South Americans in the Rugby Championship opener this weekend. And Bafana struggled to get a team together for the second League Chan qualifier against Zambia, as PSL clubs recall players for the start of the league.
We have to respect this because this is not a FIFA date, and good cooperation between coaches and clubs, I think, is very important.
The US Open gives disgraced former world number 1 Maria Sharapova a wildcard entry into the final Grand Slam of the year. And that's what we've got scheduled for you. Should we go to sport at 11:35? For now, it's back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Now, with the 5th anniversary of the Marikana tragedy of 2012 being commemorated today, we take a look back at the events 5 years ago.
Questioned the conduct of the police management during the inquiry.
In 2015, the final outcome of the Farlam report was announced, and Pierre was put on suspension with full pay. Her annual salary, 1.9 million rand. The battle lines were drawn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mukari. You may proceed.
And the stage was set for the Class and Commission of Inquiry to review Pierre's fitness to hold office. After weeks of legal wrangling, the commission made its findings. Pierre was found guilty on 5 main charges. Whether she and the police leadership misled the Farlam Commission of Inquiry by concealing that it had taken a decision to implement a tactical option. Whether she should have reasonably foreseen the tragic and catastrophic consequences which ensued from the tactical option. Did the remarks she made at the police parade on the 17th of August 2012 endorse police action? Did the report she sent to the president deliberately conceal the fact that there were 2 shooting incidents, resulting in misleading the public that all the deaths had occurred at one scene? The findings against Pierre were a condemnation of her actions. Pierre appealed the ruling, seeking a court review of it.
We are saying that, firstly, based on the evidence that we've presented, you should actually acquit her of all the charges.
Parliament's Portfolio Committee announced it would wait for the outcome of the court case before making a pronouncement on it. For the families of the men who died in Marikana, some hope. President Jacob Zuma mandated state attorneys to meet the legal representatives of all the Marikana claimants. The process of compensation would see the families paid out for the pain and suffering they endured. A call echoed by Amnesty International. Collectively, the widows and the injured miners want over 1.4 billion rand in compensation.
Contact crimes remain stubborn in this.
While Pierre was ultimately held responsible, the policemen implicated in the deaths of the 34 miners were never charged. Nor those responsible for the deaths of the 10 men who had died in the preceding days. Lawyers for the mine workers and the families indicated that they would not rule out the possibility of launching an international court bid for justice by approaching the International Criminal Court, as they believed not all the role players were held to account. Nozintombi Mia, SABC News.
And tomorrow, throwing forward, we'll be looking into the Marikana story. But in Mamelodi today, striking taxi drivers attempted to offload commuters from taxis that are operating, but some taxi owners intervened. The taxi owners are said not to be supporting the protest march there. However, the situation in Mamelodi remains calm with high police visibility. Taxi drivers are planning to march to the office of the Tshwane mayor to lodge concerns regarding enforcement tickets that prevent them from working. Our reporter on the ground is Sipho Stearman. Sipho, very good morning to you and welcome. And can you tell us what is the situation like on the ground in where you are?
Good morning to you and our viewers at home. Well, currently we are marching down on Struben Street in Pretoria Central. The taxi drivers are marching towards Tshwane House, and I'm sure you can see the visuals behind me. Here they are marching on. Obviously, some of the taxi drivers leading the march, and scores of taxis are right behind them. Of course, their main call is that they want the city of Tshwane to scrap the tickets that they owe. They're saying that these tickets are running into hundreds of thousands and that they cannot afford to pay those tickets. And right now they are marching to the mayor's office to say the mayor must consider giving them a discount in terms of the tickets that they owe, and that as a result of the tickets that they owe, they are unable to renew their car driver's license, their own driving licenses. So that is where the matter is. However, it should be said that this strike is only by taxi drivers, but not the taxi owners. The taxi owners themselves are said not to be in support of this protest action. The situation is that taxi drivers often have to pay the fines themselves. So they've taken it to themselves to go ahead with this strike. The city of Tshwane says the strike is not legal, meaning that they did not grant the permission. So the strike is considered to be illegal by city of Tshwane officials. And let me just see if maybe I can talk to one of them over here to find out their demands. If you can come to me, please if maybe you can talk to us. What are some of your main demands, please?
On zet een probleem met die ticket. So die probleem is dat je wil niet die license geven, en wil niet die driver's license geven, en die disco van die kaart ergens vervangen. So die denken van nou ons wel, die mensen moeten al die ticket afgeven. Al bij job, dat is niet meer een ticket, ons spoeg bij die mensen. Ons spoeg die mensen. Altijd ons geen dezelfde probleem.
Let's go to one of your other callers. If you can just talk to us some of your demands as well.
The problem is that we want to Rokopa city mayor, on good Rokopa city mayor, are canceling tickets aruna, the Konovergapida, and I didn't more Koro Sabat. This is Rokopa city.
What about the points that you are also breaking the rules, skipping red robots, stopping anywhere? What about that?
No, those ones we know is our problem. And if they get you, they arrest you. But the main thing, it's about Betangazon, Koreba, more full sang, Armote, Arna more full sang. Give on to you. So Rokopa city mayor are tools. One good are cancelling tickets on Tomepi, Reverick Sanaga, Keruna, Barkisamba and Chimotwa, Keruna, transport the taxi industry is the one. Even 20 that one. So hashtag enforcement must fall. Thank you.
All right, well, that is the word from some of the striking taxi drivers that enforcement must fall. They want the tickets to be removed by the city of Tshwane. They're also accusing metro officials of corruption. They're saying that they are being targeted by metro officials that are on the ground because those officials are seeking bribe from them. So they're saying that the city of Tshwane must also deal with its own officials, but also they are demanding that there should be, taxi stops erected along the routes so that they don't often stop in the middle of nowhere. And as things go now currently, of course, you can see the taxis. There's a long queue of them, and they're all going towards Tshwane House to send a memorandum to the mayor's office.
Sipho, thank you so much for that update. That was a reporter on the ground, Sipho Stearman, and as you heard there from some of the drivers that enforcement must fall. They don't want to pay their tickets. But back to one of our main stories today, where 5 KZN ANC branches, where the 5 KZN ANC branches are in court today. They are challenging both the processes leading up to the 2015 Provincial Elective Conference, as well as the decisions that was taken during that conference. For the latest on the court proceedings, we are now joined by SABC reporter Blaine Herman. He is with the KwaZulu-Natal Police spokesperson, Brigadier J. Naika. A very good morning to you and welcome back, Blaine. Can you give us an update what's happening there?
Yeah, very good morning to you, Elvis. Good morning, everybody. Live from just outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court. It is indeed an important court case being heard inside, and it's a group of ANC members who are actually calling for the results of the ANC's 8th Provincial Elective Conference that was held in November in 2015 to be declared invalid as well as unlawful, basically null and void. Supporters from both sides, the applicants as well as the respondents, are present here today supporting this case, and of course there's going to be a high police presence. Let's find out now from Brigadier J. Naika about their plans over the next 3 days. Brigadier, thank you very much indeed for your time. Of course, we're going to see, as per usual, in terms of high-profile cases, heavy police presence. Give us a sense of the measures being taken here.
Okay, we put together a very comprehensive security plan to deal with the public order around the court premises as well as security in the court premises. We've roped in, we have sufficient police members currently on the scene. We've roped in members from units like the Public Order Policing Unit. Although we're not expecting any challenges, we've made contingencies for reinforcements that can be called in should we experience any problems. We started very early in the morning, patrolling the routes for people that we knew that are going to be attending court, just to ensure there was safety during the routes. We also did a sweep of the court premises, and we've taken charge of the premises just to ensure that there's security at the court. Outside the court, the road in front of the court has been cordoned off by the traffic police, and they're monitoring traffic in and around the court precinct. Inside court, we were told that only 100 people will be allowed in, but the court manager is managing that process.
So is it police presence heavy inside court as well?
Yes, we do have police officers inside court, but if you look at most of the people that are attending to this matter are actually outside, picketing outside, and so we've also made provision for the picketing outside here, just to ensure that it's held in an orderly manner, and we don't want to disrupt proceedings at the High Court.
It's seemingly so far so good, isn't it? You said you didn't expect any challenges, so are you saying that you didn't receive any threats as yet?
Well, at this stage, no, we haven't received any threats, and everything seems to be going well. But like I say, when we plan, we do plan for the worst case scenario. So if the situation does get out of hand, we will be able to call in for more resources.
These areas that are cordoned off, it's just going to be around the court precinct, isn't it? Is this going to be for the next 3 days?
That's correct. The security along the court will remain as you see it today. Very high police presence. We are working with other role players like the traffic department, the fire department, and many other role players.
Yeah. Brigadier, thank you very much indeed for your time. Brigadier J. Naika, they're giving us a perspective of what is happening in court. Let me give our viewers a bit of a perspective of what's happening outside. Now, Zamo, if you could walk with me a bit, this is where the supporters are stationed. This is where they're going to be. Now, on my right-hand side, that's one set of supporters. And then if you can pan to the left-hand side, that's going to be the section where the other set of supporters are going to be. In the middle of both sets of supporters, there are police vehicles. So it's about 100 meters or so between the both sides. So that's how it is outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court proceedings. Inside is underway. Stay tuned to SABC for the latest. For now, it's back to Johannesburg.
Thank you, Blaine Herman there, coming to us live from Pietermaritzburg. Now, back to our top story today. Widows of the Marikana tragedy say that their children are struggling to cope with what happened to their fathers 5 years down the line. Now, today, as you know, is the 5th anniversary of the Marikana commemoration since the mass killing of 44 miners at Lonmin. The Marikana widow says it's like the tragedy occurred yesterday. For the latest on the ground in Marikana, we are now joined by our reporter, Oleboheng Khosilentse. A very good morning to you once again, Oleboheng. It is an important day on the South African calendar. Can you tell us what is the atmosphere like where you are?
Welcome once again, Elvis. Indeed, a very important day in the history of South Africa and the history of the world. Right now, as you can see behind me, Elvis, what is happening at the Kopi, or where the commemoration is being held, we can see, as you can see behind me, hundreds of mine workers continuing to gather and to sit on top of the Kopi as they normally would when they were sitting in discussions leading to this day in 2012. They are wearing green T-shirts, green AMCU T-shirts with the face or the picture of one of the most famous mine workers in the story of Marikana, Mgreneni Mambush Noki, who, has come to be known as the man in the green blanket. You remember that he was shot 14 times and he sustained 2 injuries to the head. And he's become very synonymous with the Marikana story because he was one of those people that were very influential in the talks leading to the protests and in the protests themselves, Elvis. The T-shirts on the back of them also written, "We were massacred for seeking radical economic transformation." So the message of economic transformation still very loud here in Marikana. One of the messages we are hearing among many others, one of the hashtags among many others is "Rest in peace Mambush," RIP Mambush, as he is, has become one of the faces of the Marikana story. But what is also happening right now, Elvis, is that we see scores of buses coming in, ferrying in residents from all over the country, those who want to take part in commemorating this day. Elvis, we spoke earlier to a woman all the way from Venda, and there are many such as well who've come here, who don't know anybody here, have no relatives here, but as a South African, they want also to say, I have seen this Marikana that we keep hearing about on the news. So they've come here in numbers, large numbers. We're expecting thousands of people to be here by the time the AMCU event begins, because as it is right now, only cultural performances, dancers and musicians are keeping the crowds entertained before the official program begins, because you understand that the AMCU leader, Joseph Mathunjwa, has not yet arrived in Marikana. He's among one of those people, rather, who have been stuck on the N4 and now are looking for alternative routes to come here so that they can be part of this celebration. So we also understand that the National Union of Mine Workers will not be in attendance today because of their rivalry with AMCU. We know that quite a number of NUM members, NUM-affiliated mine workers rather, were also part of the strike here in Marikana, but they will not be present here today. One other person that will not be present here today is the Deputy President of the country, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. He has chosen not to come out of respect for the wishes of the widows of the victims of the shootings here in Marikana. They have said that they don't want to see him here, because of the role that he played, that they say he played in the killings and in the whole debacle of unfairness and getting unfair labor and labor treatment and minimum wages here in Marikana. So we are still expecting tons more people to come through. We're still expecting our dignitaries to come through. As soon as they make their way here, we'll be talking to them. We're also expecting to speak to the DA leader, Musi Maimane, who was also here this week, Elvis, to talk to some of the community members in Nkaneng informal settlement, just about how much change is needed. Also to hear the concerns about nobody having been arrested this far for the proceedings that took place here 5 years on. So we'll be keeping an eye on things and monitoring proceedings, Elvis. For now, it's back to you in studio.
Well, just before you go, now the AMCU president, Joseph Mathunjwa, did indicate that today is a day for those with clear conscience of the killing of the mine workers and only those that will attend today. Was anybody, so far, has anybody been turned away?
Not as far as I understand, Elvis. Everybody has been quite welcomed here. Quite a lot of people coming from all directions. There's only, a structure built around the stadium or around the stage where speeches and performances will be given, but security is free-flowing. Yes, a number of police personnel are here, but there's no such strict measures as far as security is concerned. So far, nobody has been turned away, and I think also all the people that are here are those that know that they are welcome to be here. You take, for instance, Cyril Ramaphosa, the Deputy President, who has heard the request for him not to be here. He has, adhered to that and respected the wishes of those people. So I think that the people that will be coming here will either be the people that, have been invited to be at this event, or those who will respect, their stance, knowing what the wishes of the people are, and not come forward or come forward. Elvis?
Thank you so much for that report. That was Oleboheng Kotzilenze coming to us from the copy in Marikana. Now, let's take a look at our poll today and find out what does the numbers suggest. We're asking you, are we as a country and as a nation, as a society, are we serious about tackling gender-based violence in South Africa? So far, 327 votes in, 75% of you are saying no, we are not taking it serious. Now that is a disturbing number there. Eddie says the justice system is useless when coming to the high-profile citizens. They rather protect them than let justice prevail. Sipo says, no, we are not. If someone from outside the country comes and assault ours in here and just leave, that means we are not taking it serious. Kumuran says, if we were serious, we wouldn't have our Deputy Minister of Higher Education beating on women. Now, those are some of your comments. Please keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. Meanwhile, the former AU chair, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, says that the Deputy Higher Education Minister, Mduduzi Manana, should be removed from his position since he has admitted assaulting a woman 2 weeks ago. Manana allegedly assaulted 2 women at a Johannesburg nightclub. He is out on 5,000 Rand bail. Dlamini-Zuma, who is attending the launch of an app to try and assist women who are victims of abuse, says that action should be taken against him. Now, that was yesterday. Here's Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma.
I think it's bad when you have women being killed by their husbands, by their boyfriends, and being beaten up, and just, I think it's bad. And in any case, it shouldn't really happen. But we need to look at it, work on it, almost collectively, all of us. Women have to be organized and work with men who do not agree with that. Because if we work alone, it will not work either. But we also need to deal with it even at home. We shouldn't allow it to happen at home and hope that when kids are older, they will stop. But we also need to, I think, now see how women can also assist to empower themselves so that they are not as vulnerable. Because, for instance, I was reading research that when people want to attack somebody in the street, they look at them, and if they look at them and feel that they are walking with confidence, and they back off and look at somebody who looks vulnerable and weak. So I think, but also we need to look at what's causing this. Why are men doing this? And look at it in a more holistic way. But of course, where it happens, it has to be reported, and the law must take its course, but we need to also look at why.
Yeah. Do you think if we had a female president here in South Africa, and this is, it could be a great reality, do you think it'll help the situation? We live in a patriarchal society, and perhaps it is not top of the agenda, but do you think as a female president, and you yourself are in the running for the presidency of the ANC, would this be one of your top priorities to tackle?
Well, I think it should really be something that society as a whole must look at. And of course, a female president cannot avoid looking at it and making it a priority. But I don't think one person can make a difference. because it's a societal issue. You have to mobilize society around it to succeed, not just one person, though that one person would be important.
Yeah, it certainly would be, and perhaps given a different circumstance, and I am going to put you on the spot a little bit. I mean, we've got a government minister, deputy minister, who is in a situation where he's been accused of violence, he's been accused of abuse against a woman. We've seen videos, we've got witnesses. What would you do in a different situation? What if you were in a leadership position? Would you allow him to still be the minister, the deputy minister of higher education?
Well, I think in his case, it's different because he has even admitted. So, because normally you would say the law must take its course and so on, but he has admitted. So I think it's fair to act on it. Because we've seen, and he has said he has done it.
So you would wait in the same position for the law to take its course?
No, I'm saying you should act on it because he has admitted. Yeah. Because if you act when he hasn't admitted, then they will say you are judging. Yes. So I'm just saying in his case, I think it's different because he has admitted. Yeah. So you can act on it.
You remove him from the position?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the presidential race. How is it going? I mean, from the outside, it looks like a tough one. It really does. But how are you handling? How is it working for you?
It is, obviously, any contestation is tough. But you just have to take it in your stride and work as best as you can, keep it as dignified as it can be, do it with integrity, and then see what happens. And if you don't win, you support the winner. If you win, you also embrace the losers.
I mean, obviously, at a time like this, emotions are running high, and most people just saying that you are in this position running, and the idea is that you will just help our President Jacob Zuma out of any problems that he does have. I mean, what do you say to your critics?
Well, if he has problems, why don't they just bring the problems up right now? Secondly, why am I linked to him in that way? I'm a South African in my own right. I've got my own ID. I've been in the struggle in my own right. I've served in this government for almost 18 years. Nobody has said when President Mandela appointed me Minister of Health that I'm being appointed because when President Begi appointed me, nobody complained. I was Foreign Minister for 10 years. I was Minister of Home Affairs. In fact, everybody was pitying me when I was being sent to Home Affairs. But I worked in Home Affairs. I went to Addis. Why now? I think they are being malicious, they are being dishonest, and they're just being vicious and patriarchal and sexist. That's what I say.
Your credentials certainly speak for themselves. They really do. I mean, if we look at credentials, you are in the top running for the job. But I think perhaps what the one thing is that you do have children with the president. You are his ex-wife, and I suppose that is something that people keep in the back of their mind the whole time.
Sure, I have children with him. I was married, legally married to him. I haven't been married to him for the past, next year it will be 20 years. And I really don't see why I'm being linked in that way, except that they just want to use it against me, not that they think there's anything practical that will be bad for the country. I don't think so. Yeah. Yes, I do have children with him, and it's not a problem. Shall we then go to every candidate and see who they have children with? And see who they've been married to before? Is that what we should do? I don't do it because I don't think it's relevant.
On a final closing note, obviously we've got the ANC Women's League that are here in big numbers. They have endorsed you, they support you all the way. What does this mean for your campaign, to have the Women's League behind you?
Well, I think for me, it's very encouraging. But also, it takes you from being factional, because if you are endorsed by a constitutional structure, it makes life easy, because you are not being endorsed by a group of individuals. You are being endorsed by a constitutional structure, which is the Women's League, and a constitutional structure, which is the Youth League, and I appreciate it. But of course, the test is the branches, whether the branches do the same.
Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma there, of course, starting off the interview with the issue at hand, and that's what we focus on, violence against women and children, talking about the Deputy Minister currently in hot water. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back after that.
Today on Rights and Recourse, we will unpack the new transitional court code.
The idea of the bill is not to overregulate, to basically set the principles.
The most important aspect of this bill is that it understands that customary law by its nature is consensual, that I have a right to affiliate, I have a right therefore to opt in, and I have a right to opt out.
The opt-out provision is basically one that you've got to respect the court in the sense of, if you've been summoned, you've got to tell the clerk of the court at least that you're not willing to attend.
The challenge that I would like to throw to the Department of Justice, it has to come up with mechanisms of ensuring that people who exercise their right to opt out or to opt in are not in any way victimized.
Hashtag Rights with Dumila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
Welcome back. My name is Kendall Makhamate. Time for a little bit of sports news, where Bafana's technical staff are struggling to put together a team for the return leg of the final African Nations Championship qualifier against Zambia this coming Saturday. Just like last week, 10 players have already withdrawn from the squad.
The staging of the Chan qualifiers outside the FIFA calendar is posing a serious challenge for the Bafana selectors. Some had to be withdrawn from the first leg of the match played in East London this past weekend due to the start of the MTN 8 competition. The situation is now dire, with both the ABSA Premiership and the National First Division clubs officially starting the new season this weekend.
We need not to forget the objective of the Chan tournament itself. It's about development. It's about giving young promising players international exposure. And then, of course, yes. So if it's about development, we have to prioritize on looking to get players from both the NFD leagues, MDC, and of course the ABC Motsepe League.
Despite all the challenges the team is facing, life has to continue.
We have to respect this, because this is not a FIFA date, and good cooperation between coaches and clubs, I think, is very important. We have to strike a win-win situation whereby they are also happy while we also try to get what we need from them.
South Africa are with their backs to the wall after conceding 2 away goals against Chipolopolo in a match that ended in a 2-2 draw in East London last weekend.
We obviously conceded goals that we will always put us under pressure because of, the away goal rule. But it's not over. We are now preparing for the second leg. We are going to Zambia. We have to go and work hard for another 90 minutes.
Sinong hopes they manage to put together a balanced squad capable of getting a positive result in Ndola on Saturday. Sfeso Ramara, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold scored his first Liverpool goal as Jurgen Klopp's side took a 2-1 lead in their first leg Champions League qualifier against Hoffenheim. The German side failed to convert a penalty early in the match and were eventually punished by the English outfit. Sporting Clube de Portugal were held to a goalless draw by Steaua Bucharest in last night's other qualifier.
No flag. Hoffenheim could not have asked for a better start to the match as they won a penalty.
And the referee has given a penalty. This could be their first ever goal in European competition. Mignolet saves.
Simon Mignolet, however, kept Liverpool in the match with an easy save. After being criticised for conceding from 2 dead ball situations on the weekend, Liverpool scored from 1. This after Sadio Mane was cynically fouled outside the penalty area. 18-year-old Alexander-Arnold took responsibility on the resulting free kick, and Hoffenheim's keeper, Oliver Baumann, could only watch as the teenager's effort hit the back of the net.
Fired in! Baumann was a spectator. And young Trent Alexander-Arnold surprised everybody by stepping up, picking his spot and scoring a superb free kick.
Hoffenheim looked for a way back into the game, which left them vulnerable to the counter-attack. And James Milner's cross for Mohamed Salah was deflected into the top corner by fellow substitute Harvard Novvet.
Brilliant! Absolutely superb from James Milner. We were all expecting the cross.
Hoffenheim pulled one back in the dying minutes and the match finished 2-1 to Liverpool.
Another chance for Hoffenheim, and this one's taken. Well, that brings a different complexion to proceedings.
In Portugal, chances were few and far between in the Sporting Steaua Bucharest match. It came as no surprise to see the match ending in a goalless draw. Pressure will now be on the Romanian outfit in the second leg. In other matches played last night, Russia's CSKA Moscow beat Switzerland's young boys 1-0 at Stade de Suisse. Apol Nicosia defeated Slavia Praha 2-0, and Karabakh FK beat Copenhagen by a solitary goal. The other UEFA Champions League qualifying matches will be played this evening.
Finishes Sporting 0, Steaua 0.
Mtutuzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
And in tennis, disgraced former world #1 Maria Sharapova will be able to make her first Grand Slam appearance in over 18 months after she was awarded a main draw wildcard for the upcoming US Open. The tournament organizers have taken a step that 2 of the year's previous Grand Slams would not. The 30-year-old Russian, who returned from a 15-month doping ban earlier this year, was denied a wildcard at the French Open before she missed the grass court season, including Wimbledon, with a thigh injury. The world number 148 was forced to withdraw from the Rogers Cup and the ongoing Cincinnati Open as a precautionary measure ahead of the final Grand Slam of the year. Now, Springbok assistant coach Franco Smith has told his players not to underestimate Argentina in the opening match of the Castle Lager Championship on Saturday at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. Los Pumas have beaten the Boks once in 3 years, and they'll be aiming to cause an upset again. A new game plan is on the cards for the Boks, and Smith says players have adapted well. On the injury front, news coming out of the camp is that veteran scrummer Francois Hoogaard is back in the country and has been training with the Boks since yesterday.
The Boks have been training in Port Elizabeth since last week.
Test match rugby is played a little bit different. Second thing, once you put on the jersey for your country, you're prepared to, to die for that. And I've worked in Europe for a long time with Argentinian people and players. They are very proud in what they do, and I believe that brings that extra motivation and that extra fire in the belly. And I believe that is what they thrive on. They thrive on each other's energy.
Fly-half Elton Jantjies, who had an up-down international career so far, will be tasked with giving direction to the back line on Saturday. He has been criticized during the Super Rugby playoffs for making the wrong decisions at times, but he knows what his shortcomings are.
There's obviously a few things that I've been working on every single day when I go out to the training field, making sure that I make the right decisions at the right time, whether if it's in the attacking zone or in the defensive zone. So that's some things that I've challenged myself to make the right decisions every single time, and then obviously to create some space for my outside backs as well.
The test team will be announced on Thursday. The Springboks have never lost a game here at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in 5 appearances. They hope to keep it like that, knowing that it will require a 100% effort to beat the highly regarded Argentines. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
Now from senior to junior rugby, South Africa is still without a win in the 2017 Four Nations School Series after their 13-8 loss to France in their second match of the series. The loss is their second in 2 games, having lost by 2 points, 30-28 to Wales in their opening match last week Friday. Meanwhile, in the early match, Wales defeated England by 14 points to 12.
Out for redemption following their 30-28 loss to Wales in their opening match, South Africa played France in their second match of the series. In contrast to the first round match against Wales, the Baby Boks showed a lot of improvement defensively in this contest. However, 8 handling errors hampered South Africa's momentum going forward, the home side finishing the first half scoreless as a result. On the other hand, France scored the only try of the first half courtesy of Alban Roussel to lead by 8 points to 0 at the break. It took less than 7 minutes after resumption for South Africa to restore parity in the match, thanks to a try by Diego Apolis and a successful penalty by South Africa's number 10. France, however, hit back immediately Lucas Poisson, showcasing brilliant aerial skills to gather from a restart to score his team's second try of the contest. A 5-pointer that proved to be the difference between the two teams, France emerging 13-8 victors after 70 minutes of rugby. In the earlier match, Wales survived a late England onslaught to secure another 14 points to 12 victory. This was Wales' second win in 2 games, this after their 30-28 win over host South Africa in their opening match. Joseph Mohale, SABC News.
Now, Kenyan-born 4-time Tour de France champion Chris Froome is looking to become the only cyclist in the modern era to win the Tour de France Vuelta a España double when this year's Vuelta gets underway on Saturday. Froome believes that his biggest challenge will come from Team Orica Green Edge, which includes the likes of Esteban Chavez and the Yates brothers.
Froome clinched this year's Tour de France for the 3rd straight year, moving within just a single win of the all-time record of 5 wins in a career. He's even won the Critérium du Dauphiné 3 times, but the glaring missing feather in the Britain's cap is the Vuelta a España. Froome has been the runner-up on 3 previous occasions, and with the race just a few days away, he's eyeing a double that was last achieved by Frenchman Bernard Hinault in 1978.
It would just be incredible to win the Vuelta. I mean, it's a race I love doing every year. Amazing crowds, amazing rivalry between the riders. It's a relentless race. I mean, the course is always a lot more mountainous than the Tour de France. The conditions are tougher. Being mid-August in Spain, it's quite common to have temperatures up in the mid-40s.
Team Sky has named a talented group of riders to assist Froome in his quest for the double. Germany's Christian Nies and local favourite Spain's Mikel Niev, who rode with Froome during the tour, will accompany him on this year's edition of the Spanish Grand Tour. But he still expects a pretty good challenge from his familiar rivals.
The likes of Romain Bardet from the Tour de France this year, Fabio Aru, who was also in great shape at the Tour de France, guys who haven't done the Tour necessarily and will have focused more on being ready for this year's Vuelta a España. Guys like Vincenzo Nibali, Bob Jungels, Adam Yates from Orica, also riding with his brother Simon. And as a team, I think they pose quite a threat also with Esteban Chavez on the team. So big threat from Orica Green Edge.
The 2017 Vuelta begins on Saturday in Nîmes in the south of France and ends in the Spanish capital, Madrid, on September the 10th. Samantha Mari, SABC News.
Well, that's what we've got for you in the sports. Early on when we started the show, we wanted to find out from you a little bit about what's happening in the sporting world and what you think about the red jersey that's being worn by the Springboks when they play Argentina in Salta on the 26th. And quite a lot of comments have come through, some positive, some negative. For example, Michael Bigham's toilet says, the last time I checked, the national side in sports can use any color within its flag when it comes to jerseys, and red is in South Africa's flag, so red is okay to use. There's one positive. And we also have Eddie Handango saying it's new and fantastic. He loves it. A little earlier, we had a whole host of other comments saying, no, not the best idea, not the greatest idea. Definitely drop it. In agreement with the Bakkies Bottas, the Rob Lowe's, as well as Jake White, who said, no, he's not interested in the Boks wearing a red jersey. It's just purely a marketing ploy to sell some jerseys that Bakkies thinks nobody would want to swap with because it's not something to look forward to. That's where we'll leave it with the sport. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Phil Hawkins is going to close up the show for us by bringing you the weather forecast.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's take a look at that weather forecast. Now, of course, we take a look first of all at what's happening in terms of South Africa's weather, because we're seeing the effects of a cold front passing through the area. Widespread showers and thunder showers forecast for the southern coastline today, and that extends into parts of the southern interior as well. Snowfall even possible over parts of the Eastern Cape interior there. So much so the South African Weather Service has issued a weather watch for disruptive snowfall in the region. Now into tomorrow, we're still seeing a lot of rainfall towards the eastern coastline. This time the movement from west to east of that low pressure and that cold front is going to draw that rainfall further towards the eastern coastline and the eastern interior of South Africa. Cold conditions forecast from tomorrow onwards in areas such as Gauteng, Limpopo and Mpumalanga. Now let's take a look at what's going on in a little bit more detail. We're going to start off with your temperatures in the southwest of South Africa. 13 degrees in Cape Town, 6 degrees in Sutherland, and those are maximum temperatures. Yes, only a high of 6 degrees there in Sutherland. Moving on ahead of that cold front, Durban peaks at 23 degrees, 27 for Pretoria. Now let's take a look at our neighboring states. We're still seeing warm conditions here in the north and sunny ones as well. Maun 31 degrees and of course the same high there in Victoria Falls. Harare peaks at 25 degrees. Back towards the west, of course, a 25-degree high in Windhoek there as well with sunny conditions forecast for today. The island regions expecting some cloud cover and some rainfall. Moroni, Victoria expecting that rainfall, and Port Louis just on a bit of cloud cover there in Mauritius, 26 degrees Celsius. It's going to be a very pleasant day there indeed. Now, we're expecting very high levels of humidity forecast for the Central African northern regions here. Bangui, Juba, Kampala, all expecting rainfall with temperatures well into the higher 20s and early 30s. Moving further north, those temperatures are going to rise very quickly. So is the rainfall, though. We're seeing that rainfall moving further north towards the central regions of Chad for today. Some passing storms in the regions bordering Sudan. Moving on in towards Ethiopia, Eritrea, both expecting passing storms as well in some areas there. And, of course, some storms forecast between Liberia and the Gambia there. Now, moving on into tomorrow, we'll still see some of those stormy systems forecast for that coastline, and we're also seeing Mauritania expecting a little bit of rainfall in the south. Isolated showers continuing and scattered showers towards the interior there around Cameroon, around Chad's southern regions and so on. Still expecting those stormy conditions for tomorrow. Now, in terms of those temperatures, we said it was hot. Well, 39 degrees in Khartoum, 45 in Riyadh, and 30 degrees in Jerusalem. Sunny conditions in Tripoli with a 34-degree high. Cairo at 35 with a little bit of cloud cover. Now, Agadez peaks at 43 degrees Celsius, one of the hottest regions in the whole of Africa today. 36 in Niamey, well, we expect that cloud cover, and the rainfall around Abidjan, a 27-degree maximum. The temperature's not particularly high, but the humidity will be. It's going to be a very humid day with low wind speeds generally forecast for that area. That, of course, is where we're going to leave your weather for now. Have yourself a great day.
Why is there a dispute over who is the rightful heir to the throne?
What I can say is that Masindi is a woman. She's a girl. She's a girl child. Because I think that if she was a male, there's no way that anybody was going to dispute the fact that she is the rightful heir.
Do you recognize her as your rightful heir?
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that she is my daughter. She grew up there.
What is the intention?
I want my throne.
Join me, Mpotsedu, live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Through he goes, he's still going, he pops it up, he says Peterson. Easy as that, what a response it is from the Cheetahs, brilliant score.
Imran Tahir produced a superb performance with the ball. The Proteas leg spinner put his side in the driving seat, scalping 3 wickets for just 18 runs.
Gifton Gope is flying toward third, and he is there with a triple, his first in the big leagues.
It is a Ferrari front row lockout, unless Hamilton can get on pole, and he can't. Ferrari, for the first time since France in 2008, have locked out the front row.
For all your sports news, keep it locked to Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday from 20:30.
The excitement is tangible in the chandelier foyer of the Artscape Theatre in Cape Town. Getting ready for a performance is 74-year-old retired teacher Reggie Dreyer. He once had magnificent dreams of becoming a pianist with the Cape Philharmonic Orchestra and, in 1960, passed an audition. But apartheid put an end to the dream. The theatre would not become a home to him. And, almost impossibly, he harbours no bitterness.
So much water flows under the bridge since then. I was very heavily involved in my own music and in choirs and in teaching. So yeah, it was disappointing, and now I feel very happy, very elated that the dream came true.